like to call the village board meeting to order, number 3053. It's June 10th, 2013, 7:06 p.m. Clerk, please call the roll.
Here. Here. Semple. Sullivan. Here. Voss. Here.
Very good. Would everyone please stand? Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The first item on the agenda tonight is approval of minutes. We have 3 different sets of minutes to approve. First is Exhibit 1, the village board meeting from May 6th.
So moved. Second. Wait. No, go ahead. Sorry.
Okay. Motion by Voss, second by Sullivan. Any discussion?
Page 2, there's a typo after the word violation. It should be hearings.
Okay. Any other discussion? Wait.
On the word violation.
All right.
Got it. Oh. Not fish hearing?
No.
Got it? Okay. Clerk, please call the roll.
Voss. Yes. Sullivan.
Yes.
Abernathy.
Yes.
Kim.
Yes.
Meyer.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Let's motion carries. Next, we have approval of minutes from the May 13th, Exhibit 2. Do I have a motion? Very good. Motion by Voss.
Second.
Second by Abernathy. Any discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Voss. Yes. Abernathy.
Yes.
Kim.
Yes.
Meyer.
Yes.
Sullivan.
Yes. Motion carries. Third, the Permits Committee meeting, May 13th, Exhibit 3. This is involving, I believe, Trustees Sullivan and Voss.
Right.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Second by Sullivan. Any discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Voss. Yes. Sullivan.
Yes.
Very good. Motion carries. All right. At this point in the meeting, we have the part where we do public commentary. Would anyone tonight like to come up to the microphone and make a public statement of any kind? No? Okay. Yeah, Mr. Forshaw, go ahead, and if you could just give the clerk your full name and address. And
I will.
okay.
My name is Jack Forshaw, 167 North Prospect Avenue, Mundelein, Illinois. I'd also like to start off the evening by saying congratulations to all the people who were re-elected and elected in this last election. I'd also like to introduce you to the Protector. The Protector. Can I take this off? The Protector. 6'1", 350 pounds of bronze, could be dedicated to the men and women of the Mundelein Police Department who served this community very well for the past 100 years. I think this statue would add a whole bunch to the prestige of this community. It would add it not only for the statue, but for what we're doing with the Village Hall. It'd be a great step forward to starting some public art in town. I can also visualize this statue being illuminated at night and seeing cars go by and with a smile of acceptance on their faces. I can see mothers and fathers bringing their children up here to have their picture taken with the statue. This statue I'd love to see commemorated in May of either 2014 or May 2015. The reason why May is so important is because May is set aside to honor all the men and women of the police departments throughout the United States of America. But as you know, one person can't do this alone. It takes, well, I think someone said once, it takes a village. And this is what this is going to take. It's going to take the private sector and the public sector to do this. And here's a picture of an artist's conception of what this could possibly look like in front of Village Hall. I've been giving these out for the last year and a half, so I don't know if everyone has one or not, but if you like one, I'd make a copy of it and drop it off at your house or in your office. But again, it's going to take all of us to do this. And I just think that we need to do this in Mundelein. We have no public art. We need public art. And the men and women of our police department deserve this recognition. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Very good. Thank you very much. Anyone else for public commentary? No?
Hey, Jack.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can you pass that around before you go sit down?
The statue of the picture.
The statue, so we can see it.
I want that.
Or just walk by and sit there.
Give you a good idea what it looks like. It's a beautiful piece of art. Well, let me just mention one thing. I found two places that can manufacture this. One's in Utah and one's in Minnesota. The one in Minnesota is owned and operated by retired firemen and policemen. I kind of like both of them. Their prices are about the same, and the delivery cost is about the same for it. They both take between 4 and 6 months to manufacture, and I'm sure they want a certain amount of money down before they start, and then the rest of the money down as they finish the project. But I do think this is extremely important for Mundelein to have this. So I hope you guys consider it, and consider it on a positive note. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Yeah. All right. There are no public hearings tonight, although the liquor one. Yeah, later on we're going to have the Liquor Commission. We'll recess sometime after 7:30 for that. We go to the mayor's report at this point, and in Exhibit 4, I want to draw your attention to a Good Neighbor Award. I'm going to read this. This is quite impressive. This is a mayoral proclamation presenting Mrs. Lisa Wilson. Mrs. Wilson, are you here today?
Yes, sir.
Wonderful. I'm going to present this to you. Let me read this here. Presenting Mrs. Lisa Wilson. Well, why don't I read it? I'll read it and then you can come up, all right? Is that all right? Okay, we'll do it that way. And then I want you to come up and get this, all right? Whereas the Mundelein Village Board believes that instances of individual heroism and assistance to others that occur within the village should be recognized and honored. And whereas Lisa A. Wilson is a Mundelein resident, and whereas on the afternoon of May 20th, 2013, Mrs. Wilson was at her residence when she saw a suspicious vehicle in her neighbor's driveway with 2 unknown male subjects walking around the exterior of the residence. And whereas after contacting 911, Mrs. Wilson kept visual contact with the suspicious subjects while informing dispatch to their whereabouts so officers could apprehend the suspects quickly. And whereas, without Mrs. Wilson's willingness to assist the police department by reporting suspicious activity at her neighbor's residence, the crime of residential burglary may have gone unsolved, thus allowing the potential for future residential burglaries to continue. And whereas 2 male suspects were located and arrested for residential burglary, that's a felony, and the property belonging to the homeowner was returned, also through continued investigative actions, it was learned that the same subjects were involved in other residential burglaries in Mundelein, along with several other communities outside of Mundelein. And now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Mayor and Board of Trustees of the Village of Mundelein, Lake County, Illinois, that Mrs. Lisa A. Wilson be recognized and commended for her alertness, concern for others, responsiveness, and bravery, and that she be presented with a Mundelein Good Neighbor Award in honor of her actions, proclaimed, signed, and sealed this June 10th, 2013 in the Village of Mundelein, Lake County, Illinois. Could you come up and get this, please? So I'll give her a hand. At this point, I'm going to ask Chief Gunther to come up with the next two items on the agenda.
Thank you, Mayor. First, let me start by thanking Ms. Wilson myself. I appreciate your efforts, and we talk a lot about community policing, and I can't think of a better example of an alert citizen working with the police to bring these two gentlemen to justice. So that was a fine job, and I know that some of the victims are actually present here tonight also. And the items that were recovered based off these arrests and the charges in 4 different municipalities, almost 20 burglaries were solved by just this one call. She saw something that, well, quite honestly, just didn't look right. And she called and did what we hope everybody does, and this is the fine result of her work. So I thank you, Ms. Wilson. First, I'd like to say that, when I started a couple of months ago, one of the things that we began with was kind of recognizing when other officers and employees make some significant accomplishments, achievements in their careers. And tonight, I have the privilege of sharing with you the Employee of the Year, who is Officer Scott Clark. Scott, can you come up? This is a program we've had in existence for quite a while, and what's significant about this is this isn't selected by the police chief. This is selected by other employees within the department. And I say employees because the committee consists of command staff, officers, non-sworn employees from the dispatch and records division. They have the opportunity to have input and in the selection process on who becomes the Employee of the Year. And Officer Clark is a well-deserved officer who receives it this year, specifically for 2 instances that he helped an elderly female who was being taken advantage of financially. He helped her to find some permanent care and ensure that she wasn't losing any of that money, wasn't being taken from her any longer. And also he was very significant working with the building department in a code situation in a very dilapidated, run-down home and getting that secured and taken care of. Those 2 specific incidents what were discussed, but with Scott, for those of you that are familiar with baseball, and I said this before because he'd received the award from the Exchange Club also, is Scott's what we call a utility player in baseball. It's somebody that a team picks up a player who's got unique abilities in several different positions, and they're able to place him in those positions because they have the confidence in him, and that's who Scott is. He's a police officer. He's our code enforcement officer at the police department. He's an elderly service officer. He's an FTO. He covers the gamut when it comes to the things he's capable of doing. So it's with great pleasure I give him the Officer of the Year award.
Chief, just want to say thank you. And it would go without saying to acknowledge my wife and my daughter. So my wife Agnes and my daughter Anna Marie Clark. Obviously without their support.
And next, as you're aware, once I was promoted to the police chief, that created a vacancy for a deputy chief. And from February until just recently, we've been going through the selection process to make that appointment. And it's recently been made with the approval of Mr. Lebedo. Don Hanson has been selected as the new deputy chief. Don, if you want to come on up for me, please. First, let me just give you a little background on Don, and then, as is customary, we'll have him sworn in, and we'll have his family come up and pin his badge on him. Don's been with the department since 1989, so 24 years, and he's served in every capacity within the police department, including patrol division, and a significant portion of his career was served in the investigations division, where he also was a member of the Lake County Major Crimes Task Force, who's responsible for all significant investigations throughout the county and all homicides in particular. Don was a sergeant and also served as a commander. He graduated from Northwestern University's School of Staff and Command in 2002 and returned again in 2009 or 2010, I believe, to finish the Northwestern's Executive Management course. He has a very diverse background within the police department. He knows it well, and he's a homegrown resident of Mundelein. Went to Mundelein High School, and now lives in Gurnee with his family. But so it's nice to bring him back and have him part of the team. So I congratulate Don on his accomplishment here tonight, and I'd ask that you go up and with your family and take your oath.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Donovan Hanson, do solemnly swear
I, Donovan Hanson, do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of Deputy Police Chief
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of Deputy Chief
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
And then you can All right, this brings us to item D under the mayor's report. This is Exhibit 7, and this is regards Verizon Wireless. We have a total, I believe, of 5 motions. The first 2 pertain to the Planning and Zoning Commission's minutes and recommendations, where we're voting to simply receive those, not necessarily agree. And then numbers 3, 4, and 5 pertain to authorizing staff to draft an ordinance, not necessarily approving of the ordinance, but simply instructing staff to begin drafting those items. So first, I need a motion to accept the Planning and Zoning Commission's minutes and findings of fact.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Sullivan, second by Voss. Any discussion on the motion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, just as a reminder, due to a conflict of interest, I'm neither participating in the discussion and will be abstaining from voting.
Very good. Thank you. Any other discussion? Okay.
There was an email of some resident concern on whether it would match the towers that were there and BNI solar, but I went over there last night actually, and I think it would blend in pretty well because there are some high power lines there already. I don't think it would detract much.
Okay. Okay, clerk, please call the roll.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Voss,
Yes.
Meyer,
Abstain?
Kim,
Yes.
Abernathy.
Yes.
Very good. Motion carries. Next, a motion to accept the Planning and Zoning Commission's recommendations.
Moved.
Motion by Abernathy, second by Sullivan. Any discussion on the motion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Abernathy?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Voss?
Yes.
Kim?
Yes.
Meyer?
Abstain.
Motion carries. Then we get to the Planning and Zoning Commission's, or authorizing staff, that's right. This is a motion to authorize staff to draft an ordinance granting a special use permit to section 12.3 DD to the installation of telecommunications antenna and equipment shelter for Verizon Wireless at 999 Thomas Boulevard.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Sullivan, second by Abernathy. Any discussion on the motion?
Yes, please.
Trustee Voss.
I just want to say that, I know that we have sort of a limited parameter under which we can approve or not this. I was going to ask maybe if Charlie Marino could talk about it a little bit, and to ask, I haven't seen anything in the paperwork, maybe I missed it, that shows where Verizon has done a study showing, trying at other places, showing it how it could cover that same issue. So are we aware that they have one? They've done research? Anybody want to jump in?
Okay. Can you give your name and address to the clerk, please?
Sure. My name is Ray Schinkel, and I live at 1089 on Wensia Court in Naperville, Illinois. That's ONWENTSIA. And I'm representing Verizon Wireless, and I presented at both planning commission meetings where they approved the application unanimously. And I believe it should be in the packet. We showed the surrounding sites, and the particular area that they're trying to cover, there was nothing existing that we could use. And per your code, we try to use anything we can to co-locate on to eliminate the need for erecting a new communications tower. And as Trustee Kim mentioned, there are those large power lines that are running through that particular area. So that's what we targeted. And it was just, I think it was last year, the year before, that a power line 800 feet to the south was approved for T-Mobile to co-locate on. They haven't built it yet, but it was approved at the Planning Commission and Village Board level.
So can you tell me exactly what other sites that you looked at and what research you did that this is the only site that will...
Well, it's the only site that we can co-locate on because, again, I could show you the RF maps, but it's based on surrounding sites. So I try to use the analogy of when you're installing a sprinkler system in your front lawn, you want to place them just so that the coverage just overlaps. If you're going too close to another sprinkler head, you're covering an area that's already covered. If you're going too far apart, again, you still have a coverage gap. So based on the surrounding sites, which I showed in the PowerPoint, there was really limited spot we could go. If we went further south, we were getting too close to a site that Verizon already had. So unfortunately, this was the only tower that we could consider that's an existing structure. Now, we could look at building a new tower, and it would be in that industrial area there. But with these towers that are existing, this is a co-location on a 110-foot tower that already exists. So that's why we tried to target that.
Okay, so because you presented at the Plan Commission, we are not the Plan Commission, we're
Right.
the Village Board.
I could show you that right here.
That'd be great.
Okay, great.
And where's the other nearest existing tower? You said to the south. What about to the north?
This right here represents our tower. These are all existing towers that are
What are all existing towers?
existing antenna facilities, I should say.
What color is all existing? What are you asking me to look at?
See the green?
Yes.
Right there? The dark blue represents excellent building coverage in that area. That's what we're targeting. You can see that is an after picture. This is
So
if you go too far south, you get too close to a tower that already exists. You go too, that's why this is the coverage as it sits right now. You can see that we have this gap in coverage. So we're trying to
Well,
be
no,
as
is white a gap in coverage? You're just showing me pictures now, so you're not explaining them. Okay, so white is the gap and green is the gap?
Here's where this is the chart we're trying to cover. The dark blue is what we actually
You know what, just so that everyone can understand, he's showing me a colored picture with no street names, no legend about what the map would be for. So I guess I'm not clear from Verizon exactly what you've done at what other locations that you have looked, so that you know. I get what you're trying to accomplish, the full coverage. But what I don't get, and this, I'm sorry, but just isn't enough information for me to explain, where else is it that you've looked at towers that you can either A, co-locate, or B, have a new tower if need be, such that this is the only place that you can go to take care of your problem. So I don't feel like I've been given that information, that I understand that this is the only place that you can go that will take care of that problem. So now I'm going to actually go back to Charlie and ask if that's a legitimate.
Well, I have not myself read the findings of fact or the recommendations of the Plan Commission at this point. But the action you're taking now is not final approval.
I get that.
It is merely to direct staff to prepare ordinances for the next meeting, at which then you will vote on whether or not to grant approval of this installation. Now, prior to that, if you wish, I can give you a legal analysis of what you might expect in the event that you denied this and Verizon sued the village. I can do a legal analysis, not a conclusion. I can't tell you what will happen specifically, but I can tell you about other cases in which communities have denied towers of this kind, and they've gone to court and either succeeded or failed.
But Trustee Voss, I'd just like to say that I gave a very extensive presentation at both Planning Commission meetings, and the application that I worked with Amanda was really detailed. I'm happy to give the same presentation to you and this board at the next meeting, or even tonight if you wanted, because this is all the stuff that they asked me to exhaust and put in the package, and I thought that you had had that. I apologize.
Yeah, so I don't have that.
Okay.
And again, I'm not having, looked at some of the Plan Commission information. I still don't see a report that you did that shows what would happen if you located it at other areas in Mundelein, and or you mentioned a place in the further south. What would happen if you located there?
Well, if we went further south, ComEd does not allow two carriers on one pole. So 800 feet south, the next tower south, there's each one of these steel towers are 800 feet away. T-Mobile is approved to do the exact type of co-location, identical. So we can't co-locate on the same tower. So this is the closest we could get to, because if we went to the tower to the south, that is too close to our existing site and not meeting our coverage objective. So we went as close to a tower that was approved about a year and a half ago with the exact type of design. So that's our logic. That's why we went this location, and it met our coverage objective. And it's a co-location, which is in harmony with your code.
Yes. So again, before this comes back to us, I guess I'd like some additional documentation.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay, clerk, please call the roll.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Abernathy?
Yes.
Voss?
Yes.
Meyer?
Abstain.
Kim?
Yes.
Motion carries. Next, a motion to authorize staff to draft an ordinance granting a variation to section 12.3 DD7D to allow a height increase from 121 feet to 125 feet for a telecommunications structure for Verizon Wireless at 999 Thomas Boulevard. Do I have that motion? Motion by Sullivan.
Second.
Second by Abernathy. Any discussion on the motion? Clerk? Oh,
I was going to ask, you said it's just like the AT&T. Does AT&T have a...
T-Mobile.
T-Mobile have a variance on their height?
I believe the code changed since it was approved, but I'm not sure. I think Amanda can attest to that. I don't know, or maybe they had smaller antennas. I couldn't remember.
That is correct. The code had changed or is different from when the T-Mobile was approved.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
other discussion? Okay, clerk, please call the roll.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Abernathy?
Yes.
Voss?
Yes.
Meyer?
Abstain.
Kim?
Yes.
Motion carries. Finally, on this, a motion to authorize staff to issue a certificate of compliance for building materials, design, and landscaping for Verizon Wireless 999 Thomas Boulevard.
You want to explain what a certificate of compliance is?
Well, I need a motion first
I'll
and a
move.
second, then we'll
I'll move.
discuss. Moved by Abernathy. Any second?
Second.
Second by Sullivan. Discussion.
Do you now want to explain what a certificate of compliance is?
What's the difference between a building permit and a certificate of compliance?
Well, I'm going to kick the football to Mr. Barrera because that's part of our new zoning ordinance.
Yeah, that's part of our new zoning ordinance. It's really part of the new municipal code as well. And that is basically that it adheres to the appearance code of the Village of Mundelein.
That's what the certificate of compliance means.
Correct.
Okay. Okie dokie. Thanks.
Any other discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Abernathy?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Kim?
Yes.
Voss?
Yes.
Meyer?
Abstain.
Motion carries. Very good. Okay.
Thank you very much. So
All
a
right.
couple weeks we'll be back, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. At this point, we're ready to, At this point, we are going to recess the village board meeting so that we can do our liquor commission meeting. So I need a motion to recess the village board meeting.
So moved.
Seconded.
Motion by Voss, second by Abernathy. Any discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Voss?
Yes.
Abernathy?
Yes.
Kim?
Yes.
Sullivan? Meyer?
Yes.
Okay. Motion carries. We've recessed the village board meeting, and now we're going to convene. We need a motion to convene the Liquor Control Commission.
I'll motion.
Motion by Kim,
Second.
second by Sullivan. Any discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Kim?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Abernathy?
Yes.
Meyer?
Yes.
Voss?
Yes.
Did I get everybody?
Yes.
Okay. So now we have opened the Liquor Control Commission meeting. Now we have to take roll. Clerk, please call the roll. Okay.
Okay, so it's 7:40, right? Ready?
Yes.
Abernathy?
Here.
Kim?
Yes, sorry.
Okay. Meyer?
Here.
Sullivan?
Here.
Voss?
Here.
Very good. All right. The first item on the agenda here is the approval of minutes from March 11th, 2013. This is Exhibit 1, the agenda for this. Do I have a motion for the
Take that motion.
approval? Motion by Voss. Second. Second. By Sullivan. Any discussion on those minutes? Clerk, please call the roll.
Voss?
Yes.
Sullivan? Abernathy?
Present. Present.
Present. Okay.
Kim?
Present.
Meyer?
Yes.
What I vote Very good. Okay, the minutes are approved. We have two items under a citation, a notice of hearing. First, we will address the Blue House Korean Barbecue. This is Exhibit 2 at 1484 Town Line Road. And we will first hear from Mr. Lalazar.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the Commission. In this particular matter, the licensee is in the name of GHL Inc., doing business as Blue House Korean Barbecue, and they are cited for a liquor violation pursuant to a compliance check by the Mundelein Police Department on April 24th, 2013, in which a employee sold liquor to a minor and was not Bassett certified. We have reached an agreement by myself and the President, High C. Little, for a resolution of this matter for a $500 fine, and that would be paid within 24 hours of this order being entered by the Commission. There would be no suspension of the license. And Ms. Little is here. She has signed this agreement subject to the Commission's approval.
Hi, would you like to make a comment?
Yes, it's the gentleman that did serve the beer. It was his third day on the job, and I wasn't aware that he had gotten hired. He's not supposed to return until he's Bassett certified, so he got let go. For now, until he gets Bassett certified, then he can come back and work for us. But he understands he's a student, or he was a student. But he doesn't speak very good English. He didn't really understand what was going on. It confused him. He got, kind of startled him too, I guess. But he is going to come back after he's Bassett certified.
Okay. And you agree to the arrangement
Yes.
here, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Any trustees have a comment or a question?
He's getting, do you expect him to come back into work?
At this point, it really doesn't matter to us if he does or not. If he wants to, he can come back with his Bassett certification, and it'll be up to us at that time if we want to have him work for us again. So it's not a guaranteed position that he's going to have. I mean, it's caused us a lot of headache, and
So, and when was your last violation?
I don't.
2009.
Yeah. And she's gone too. I mean, we try, and sometimes the lack of the language, I guess, I don't know what they're looking at. They look at the ID and it says, I don't know what goes through their mind, honestly. So, and we've warned them, we've trained them, we've done everything we could. I mean, it's just, my uncle actually did go up there and he told them, no, you cannot serve him yet. But then at that point, I guess he had put the bottle of beer down at the table, and it was the gentleman who was there, I was there at the time, said it was too late, that he had already put this bottle down. I mean, my uncle knew he was going to go up there, and he's like, no. So it was just, I wasn't there to see what really happened, but
Are you usually there?
I'm there often, not as often as I should be, but I have been lately.
I guess I'm inclined to accept this because it's been so long since your last violation. Generally, on a second violation, we're not quite this lenient.
Okay.
So all I would say is, if you think you've had some staff problems, you need to work on them, because if you come back to us again.
I'm fully aware of that. I mean, it's embarrassing to us. It's embarrassing to me, and I should be there more often, but I wasn't. So, I apologize. It's ridiculous. It shouldn't have happened.
Well, I'm glad that you're embarrassed. However, for us, it's a little bit more than embarrassment. We don't want our youth underage being served. And it's important, and it's a safety issue. Okay. I'll go along with this for now.
Anyone else? Okay. All right, I need a motion to approve of this arrangement. Motion by Kim, second by Sullivan. Any discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Kim?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Abernathy?
Yes.
Meyer?
Yes.
Voss? Yes.
Okay, that carries, and then, yeah. Thank you. All right. Next, the second one tonight is with Golf Visions Management, Inc., doing business as Village Green Golf Club at 2501 North Midlothian Road.
Yeah, this allegation, the citation arises from the same compliance endeavor back on April 24th of 2013, in which one of our officers went in with an underage individual as part of a compliance check, was able to purchase alcohol at the Village Green Golf Course, and they were subsequently cited for that, for the employee for serving alcohol to a minor. Mr. Timothy J. Miles Sr., the president of Golf Vision Management, is present, and we have reached an agreement subject to the commission's approval for a $500 fine and no suspension of the license. They in fact, have appeared ready all week to pay the fine, but I told them it had to be approved by the commission at first. To our knowledge, there's been no previous violations at the Village Green Golf Course. Mr. Miles, please step forward, please.
Okay. Mr. Miles, do you have anything to say?
Compliance is very important. I have said to many people, I've had up to 20, I have had 25 liquor licenses over the last 30 years, up to 17 at any one time. This is the first violation we've ever had. I'm very strong on compliance. All of our people are BASA trained. I've told many people that this community has, of all the licenses I've ever had, this has the best. Mundelein has the best system I've seen. Fair, good, so forth. Not embarrassed. We do take this very seriously, and I'm sorry this happened. The supervisor who was on duty at that time has been terminated. Standing right there when this happened. Similar circumstance to the lady that was there before. Gal had a second thought. It was too late. So I don't know what else to say. We do take this extremely seriously, and nothing else we can do.
Okay. You trustees have any comments? Okay.
I'll second it.
Motion by Voss to approve the $500 fine, second by Abernathy. Any discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Voss? Yes. Abernathy?
Yes.
Meyer?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Kim?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
That concludes all the matters I have before the commission this evening.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. That's it.
Motion to adjourn? Second.
Motion to adjourn by Voss, second by Kim. Any discussion on the motion to adjourn? Clerk, please call the roll.
Voss?
Yes.
Kim?
Yes.
Meyer?
Yes.
Abernathy?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Motion is approved. Now we need a motion to reconvene the village board meeting.
So moved.
Moved by Meyer, second by Sullivan. Motion by Meyer, second by Sullivan. Board meeting. Okay, discussion on the motion. Clerk, please call the roll.
Meyer,
Yes.
Sullivan, Abernathy,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
Voss.
Yes.
Very good. We have now reconvened the village board meeting. It's time to take the roll.
Abernathy.
Here.
Kim.
Here.
Meyer.
Here.
Sullivan.
Here.
Voss.
Here.
Very good. We are now at letter E under other reports. This is Exhibit 8 in the packet, Park Center condominiums. I need a motion to adopt a resolution granting a 2-year extension for Holcomb Development LLC to substantially complete construction to receive eligible redevelopment costs pursuant to the Park Center condominiums redevelopment agreement. Do I have that motion?
So moved.
Moved by Voss, second by Abernathy. Any discussion on the motion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Voss.
Yes.
Abernathy.
Yes.
Kim.
Yes.
Sullivan.
Yes.
Meyer.
Yes.
Motion carries. Very good. Next, under other reports, Party Fantasy Special Use Permit, Exhibit 9 in your packet. This is a motion. I need a motion to pass an ordinance granting a special use permit to allow an outdoor amusement facility at 342 Town Line Road. Do I have that motion?
So moved.
Moved by Kim,
Second.
second by Meyer. Any discussion on the motion?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes. Trustee Voss?
the last time that Mr. Moore was here, Trustee Abernathy suggested that he needed some state licenses in order to move forward. So I'm just wondering if he's gotten them or if we'll just make sure that he has them before this is issued.
Ordinance provides for it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, there you go.
Thank you.
Your name, please.
Abby Weinstein, Weinstein.
Thank you.
We are started the ball rolling on that. It is through the Amusements and Carnival Division through the state. So we don't have them yet, but we've been talking with them.
And you understand that you'll have to have them before you...
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'm told that it's a very fast process. It's a 1-week process to get them out. So
Okay.
hopefully that's the case.
All right, very good.
Okay. Any other questions, comments, or discussion?
So on the on the ordinance, it does say that the time, they cannot be open later than 8 o'clock, correct?
That's what it says. Correct.
And at 8 o'clock, I still have a lot of issues. Okay.
Our heats run 8 minutes, so we would figure, I'm guessing you're saying if people are waiting, we would time our heats based on, we would have a cutoff so that it would close at 8 o'clock.
I guess I'll just
Say
throw
that,
this out
Stoddard,
there.
or you want to just keep nothing?
I'll throw it out there. I think there's some suspicion that the kids are going to love this thing, and you're going to want to stay open longer than 8 p.m. because you're going to have a lot of kids that are going
to you, and we get permission to do that.
Well,
at this point,
then there's a lot of issues with that.
but that's not our plan. Our hours are going to be the same as the indoor place. I want to go home. My employees want to go home.
Okay.
It's a long day.
Okay, so 8 o'clock it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah. Trustee
if I may
Sullivan.
Ask a question. In Part C, Section 2, Part C, number 3 and 4, it refers to an attendant. Can that attendant be the same attendant that is the one who supervises the crosswalk as well as an attendant present at all times go-kart track is in operation. Is this 2 attendants or 1 attendant? Or could it be 1?
There would be specifically 1 attendant for the crosswalk who would not work the track.
Okay, and then the other, then there's a second attendant.
There would be more than 2
Right.
attendants on the track at a time. Probably 2 to 4 employees on the track at a time, not counting the crossing person.
Perhaps that could be clarified that this is there are 2 attendants we're talking about. That 1 attendant doesn't do both jobs. All right.
Now, would we?
Right, they're strictly crossing people. Mm-hmm.
With the board's approval, Mr. Pereira, working with myself, will revise that provision.
Wouldn't we have to change would we have to add anything to the motion just presented?
You really don't have to do that. We've had that discussion.
Okay. Okay. We'll make that clarification in the ordinance then. Okay. Very good. Anyone else? Clerk, please call the roll.
Kim?
Yes.
Meyer?
Yes.
Abernathy?
No.
Sullivan?
I have to vote no.
Voss?
Yes.
Oh, I can vote if I wish to vote? Okay. I do not want to vote to create a tie. No. I would vote yes if I had to vote. Right? So I'll go ahead and vote then? I'll vote yes.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Motion passes. Next, we have trustee reports, Public Works Committee. Trustee Meyer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Okay, I have 3 motions for tonight. The first one is related to equipment purchase, brush chipper, and that would be Exhibit Public Works -1. And it's a motion to adopt a resolution waiving the formal competitive bidding process, accepting a proposal from Vermeer, Illinois, Inc., Aurora, Illinois, and approving the purchase order for a brush chipper in the amount of $59,217.08. That motion?
We have a motion by Meyer.
Second.
Second by Abernathy. Any discussion on the motion?
Well, I was just going to ask a question real quick to Mr. Boucher. Not only this one, but the ones coming up, they all say waiving the formal competitive bidding process. So could you clarify that for me? Because, I thought governments send these out to bid on purpose to get a low price. So.
Right. Typically, we do publicly bid most of our equipment unless there is an opportunity to become part of a joint purchase cooperative that's already publicly bid these pieces of equipment. And in each of the 3 on the agenda tonight, they were all part of a joint purchase. 2 of them through the state purchase program, the Central Management Service, and 1 through a national joint venture called NJPA, I believe.
So through these joint ventures, then they have gone out to bid, and this is the lowest price.
Yes.
Okay, so no one in the audience should be confused that we did not send these out to bid.
Yeah, we just didn't go through our formal publicly
Okay.
bid process.
Any other discussion? Very good. Clerk, please call the roll.
Meyer?
Yes.
Abernathy?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Kim?
Yes.
Voss?
Yes.
Motion carries. Trustee Meyer?
All right, thank you. And the second motion I have for tonight is also related to equipment purchase of an aerial lift truck, and that would be Exhibit Public Works -2. And I'd like to make a motion to adopt a resolution waiving the formal competitive bidding process, accepting a proposal from Alltech Industries, Inc. in Birmingham, Alabama, and approving the purchase order for an aerial lift truck in the amount of $174,780.33, including two-way radio installation.
Okay, we have a motion by Meyer. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Abernathy. Any discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Meyer,
Yes.
Abernathy,
Yes.
Voss, Sullivan,
Yes.
Kim.
Yes.
Very good. Motion carries.
And the third and final motion tonight would be the equipment purchase of a utility service vans, Exhibit PW-3. And this is a motion to adopt a resolution waiving the formal competitive bidding process and accepting a proposal from Landmark Ford of Springfield, Illinois, and approving a purchase order for two service vans in the amount of $57,367.66, including two-way radio installation.
Okay, we have a motion by Meyer. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Kim. Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Trustee Sullivan.
I see the departments that these are going to. Where specifically are these vans going to be used? And I saw the information there replacing some vans, but there is one van that is just not being used at all. And how long has it been out of service? Well, tell me where these are. Who's going to use these?
Actually, both of the vans will go into the water division. What we're doing, though, is kind of tweaking the fleet a little bit. We have a wastewater administrative vehicle that we are replacing with one of the vans, but the van will be going to the water division to replace a pickup truck that's currently in water. That pickup truck will then replace the wastewater administrative vehicle because that pickup is just not efficiently utilized within the water division and can be more effectively utilized in wastewater. So we're kind of doing a musical chairs with the vehicles, but the funding allocated falls within the enterprise and will be lower than the original budgeted amount.
And this 2000 Ford Explorer.
That's the one that's sitting.
Is just sitting. And how is that compromising our staff to have it sitting? Sitting, maybe we don't need it. Therefore, we don't need to replace it.
Well, we need it because we currently are short an administrative vehicle. So our assistant superintendent in wastewater right now is utilizing any available vehicle on any given day to be able to go into the field. We're making ends meet right now until which time we can procure the vehicle for him.
He does find a vehicle.
Most days. Sometimes he shares with some of the other superintendents.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Very good. Clerk, please call the roll.
Meyer,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
Abernathy,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Voss.
Yes.
Motion carries.
And that would be all I have tonight for Public Works.
Thank you very much, Trustee Meyer. Next, Finance Committee, Trustee Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This evening we have a motion to approve payment of bills to AT&T. These invoices totaling $14,782.75. And I will make that motion to approve the payments of these invoices.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Kim. Any discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
Abernathy,
Yes.
Meyer,
Abstain.
Voss.
Yes.
Motion carries.
We have a second motion to approve the payment to AT&T Mobility for wireless connection charges for computer-assisted dispatching functions. This is in the amount of $12,500, and I will also make the motion to approve this payment.
Seconded?
Motion by Sullivan, second by
Kim?
Kim. Any discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
Abernathy,
Yes.
Meyer,
Abstain.
Voss.
Yes.
Very good. Motion carries.
This evening on our omnibus list of motions, we have a bill list totaling $1,563,233.13. This is somewhat more sizable than it is from a historical standpoint, but you recall we didn't meet 2 weeks ago. It was 30 days ago, so this is like forgetting to pay your electric bill and all of a sudden getting whacked with a big one. Some of the significant items on this bill list are some payments for principal and interest on bonded debt. This amounts to $278,618.76. Johnson Controls is going to be paid $280,941. This for the energy efficiency project that we've approved some time ago. Joint Action Water Agency for Lake Michigan Water, $205,319.60. If anyone has a question in regard to Finance Department or these bills, we can entertain them. Otherwise, that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
I do actually.
Okay.
Could you just clarify, maybe for the benefit of our newer board members, what the 2010 A and B bonds that we paid?
Oh, I knew you were going to ask me. I always look those up, but I believe they are financing. Well, you'll have to help me, Mr. Director. I don't want to be wrong. I'm just guessing.
2010 B bonds refunded some 90 bonds that were issued in the 90s to take advantage of lower interest rates. 2008 bonds were issued for the Sigma property.
Refinancing. Yeah. Thank you.
That it? Okay. Thank you very much. Next on the agenda is the Public Safety Committee report. Trustee Semple is not here this evening. The vice chair is Trustee Abernathy.
There's nothing to report.
Well, why don't you ask the chiefs if they have something?
Do you have anything you need to report?
Yes,
I didn't know you were doing this.
I'd just like to mention that recently we finished our drive for Special Olympics, bringing in a little better than $25,000 to that organization. That's it. Thanks.
And just a quick notice that July 6th, since right around the corner, the 4th of July weekend, we'll have our largest blood drive of the year here from 9 to 3. And then also, depending on how the agenda works out, or maybe prior to the board meeting, we have the plaque in now for the tree that was donated by the Semple family. That's in front of the station. That's in memory of all the firefighters that have passed, that have served the community. So we'd like to maybe try to dedicate that very quickly, a little 5-minute ceremony prior to the meeting on the 24th.
Okay. We'll note that and maybe include that in a little reminder if we could to the board so that we can make sure we're present. So that would be great. Very nice. Okay. Thank you very much. Next on the agenda is the Community and Economic Development Committee report. Trustee Voss.
Thank you. First of all, we had a really, really busy weekend here in town. There was the Craft Beer Festival Saturday afternoon that was fabulous. It was very crowded. I volunteered. Trustee Abernathy and Kim, I saw you both. Well, I didn't see you. I just heard that you were there. I saw you there. It was a good time, was had by all. And then also Saturday night was the GLMV Relay for Life. And for those who were interested, the sun came up about 4:35 that night. And then yesterday was the bike safety program that was also well attended. As a reminder, Wednesday is Park on Park, so weather permitting. Friday? No, Park on Park is Wednesday.
Yeah, Friday.
Thank you. And I was going to get to that.
Okay.
Friday will be our first farmers market. Thank you, Trustee Abernathy. Thinking. So Friday will be our first farmers market. There's a lot of things going on. If you haven't already, please sign up to get our newsletter, and you'll be kept in touch with all the things that are going on in the community. Also, we have 2 new businesses in town. We have Advanced Home Improvement, Inc. at 1059 High Street. Installation, they do installing of siding and gutters. And also Crave Art at 515 North Lake Street, which is art instruction for all ages from 2 to 100, no matter on ability level. And we want to welcome those new businesses to town, and we, as always, we want to shop Mundelein. And that is all.
I'll just throw on a little addendum to your report, if I may, Trustee Voss. We had just this last week what I believe will be our first annual commercial brokers breakfast here this last week at the training room at the police station, and we had about 27 people there. We heard from a variety of speakers, including Village Administrator John Lebedo, our Director of Community Development, Victor Barrera, did a great job. And we're just talking about the downtown opportunities to the brokers. Now, a lot of these guys were from, men and women were from, outside our area. We wanted them to come in and hear about the opportunities that we have for commercial development, redevelopment, some of the vacancies, and some of the great demographics we have. And so it was just a real good kickoff event. When next year it'll hopefully be bigger and better and even grander. And so I just wanted to report that as to the board and to everyone else as well. Okay, next. Yes.
If I might, since you mentioned this was a wonderful event, and Victor Barrera, our Director of Community Development, did a great job with it. But one thing I didn't have a chance to congratulate him on and thank him in regard to was the follow-up letter that he sent to these brokers. Excellent letter. Remember that letter. we need to concentrate on that approach to those who deal with starting businesses and selling commercial property. Thank you.
Yeah. You want to say anything?
I do. Actually, there was one additional group to recognize for a lot of their hard time and effort was the Economic Development Commission. They certainly were a champion of this meeting. There was a lot of time and effort that was put in by Lisa Hendricks, Economic Development member, Rob Pippin, Robert. And so there was just a collaboration of involvement from the Economic Development Commission, and their efforts were instrumental in putting this meeting together.
Yep. Larry Gallus is the chair of the EDC. He emceed the whole thing, I believe.
He did.
Taste of Paris provided food. It was a great call on having eggs there, not just Danish. It was a great breakfast as well. Good going. All right. Trustee Kim, you ready? All right.
I'll ever be.
Communication and marketing report. Trustee Kim.
Okay. For the 2013 fiscal year, we have budgeted for a manager of marketing and communications. One of the concerns of the residents is that things are going on in Mundelein and they don't know when or where. Another point that I love to make is that Mundelein is full of great things happening all the time, and we don't get the airtime we deserve. And so this is someone who's going to actively promote Mundelein. They're going to write press releases. They're going to be the liaison between media and the public and the village. So whenever there's an event, they'll be there, they'll take a picture, they're going to start the social media launch. In addition to that, they're also going to, like I said, write the press releases, coordinate special events. They're also going to take over the newsletter and the website. Is that correct? Okay. So, I personally will be involved in this process. So I want to make sure this is somebody who not only understands social media, but understands social media management software. I want them to plan for the long term, because that's really big to me. I don't need someone who's just going to post about an event or that this happened. I need them to be actively involved and to pass this momentum. A lot of people need to know how great this town is. I mean, we all know that, but more people need to know. So, on to my motion? Yes. Motion to authorize village administration to advertise for the position of Manager of Communication and Marketing and have trustee Holly Kim participate in the recruitment process. Yes, I'm rolling it. I'm sorry. I make the motion.
Motion by Kim, second by Sullivan. Any discussion?
Yes. Will this position also work with branding the village?
Yes, that's part of it. What Trustee Kim, just to take off a little bit on what Trustee Kim mentioned, it also is going to, this person is going to play a role in our economic development, attraction, and retention. That's a key component. Although this person might not be right out front with it, is going to be intimately involved in the background, helping us put together promotional materials, demographic information, helping us put our best foot forward when we're out trying to attract businesses. And so they'll be involved in that as well. So, and branding is key. That's kind of the timing we pushed this up early on the agenda because, as you know, we're about ready to embark on the branding campaign, and we think it would be good to have somebody on staff at the beginning of that process so they can be involved in it as well.
Any other discussion? All right, clerk, please call the roll.
Kim?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Meyer?
Yes.
Abernathy?
Yes.
Voss? Yes.
Motion carries. Trustee Kim, you have anything else?
I look forward to working with whoever it is. I'll be there for every single interview, I guess.
Excellent. Okay. Next, Trustee Abernathy, Transportation and Infrastructure Committee.
Adam?
Not really, just a couple of noteworthy items. One more public works related than anything else. We recently completed state certification for our in-house staff to conduct CDL testing at our facility, so we don't have to send our individuals out. And also the GIS system on our website is up and running for the residents to be able to access information on their property and other properties within the village. It's a very useful tool for them to be able to utilize. And it's right in the left-hand corner. They just have to click that interactive maps and type in whatever address they want to view the information on.
And if no one's ever looked at those GIS maps, they are really cool. You really need to check those out.
Is that it? Finished? Okay, very good. All right, under other reports, we have a number of motions under the codes of Mundelein, and we're going to hand this over to Trustee Meyer to introduce.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Do you need to set up for, we're going to have several presentations. Already ready. Okay. And who do I need to introduce? Maria, are you going to do it? Okay. I'd like to introduce Maria Kazonis, and she's going to make a presentation on the codes of Mundelein. And before you get started, I would like to say that, you know, the economic downturn affected many of the projects in Mundelein, and a lot of those projects completely disappeared off of the face of the map, but this one has evolved, and here to tell you about it.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Mayor, trustees, village staff. I'm here to introduce the Coves of Mundelein Development Project proposed at 728 Diamond Lake Road in Mundelein. I'm going to start by telling you a little bit about us, and also with me I'm going to introduce our architect on the project, Matt Haylock from Arc America, and Mark Richards from WMA, who is our civil engineer. Mega Group is a horizontally integrated real estate firm. We do development, property management, brokerage, and construction. Our development team has raised over $1 billion in the last 30 years to develop projects in four different states, Illinois, Arizona, Wisconsin, Indiana, with a primary presence in the Chicago MSA, focusing on commercial real estate. Mega Properties is our property management group. We manage over 100 multi-tenant commercial properties, multifamily properties, and we also represent a few condominium associations. Our property management company runs preventative maintenance programs in order to assess our mechanical, electrical, and plumbing systems in all the buildings that we manage, and also assesses roof replacement. So we do capital improvements to maintain these buildings. And also on a weekly basis, on a daily basis, we clean, and on a weekly basis, we maintain the exterior. We also assess maintaining the exterior of our properties, seal coating and restriping all of our parking lots every few years, and also maintaining the landscaping. Mega Realty is our brokerage company. We lease commercial and residential spaces, and Delco Construction is our general contracting company who has built over 450 buildings in the last 30 years, ranging from public jobs such as schools, post offices, libraries, to private works, ranging from commercial retail centers, mixed-use developments, ground floor retail, and condominiums, multifamily, and even specialty uses like the Hindu temple in Lamont, if any of you are familiar with that. Mega has done a lot of work within the village of Mundelein, and I'll get to that. I just kind of wanted to point out a few projects that we've done. Mixed-use development at Pensacola and Milwaukee and Chicago, which was ground floor retail and 25 condominium units on top. Similar and to a larger scale was a mixed-use development at 35th and Halsted with 18,500 square foot of ground floor retail and 67 condominium units. And then retail, 8,000 square foot of retail and 13,000 anchored by CVS, two in Milwaukee and Niles. National tenants include Starbucks, Subway, Midwest Bain Center, which is expanding throughout the Chicagoland area pretty quickly. In the area, I've kind of located the site, which you can tell is on the lake with the boat docks all the way to the left. Around the site that we're going to be talking about, Mega has developed Lake Plaza Center, Lake Plaza Center number 2, Forest Plaza across the street, anchored with an advanced auto, and we've also done another multifamily apartment building across the street, which is about 18 units. The other two buildings that you see there are proposed to incorporate the rest of the area, and as you can tell, we hope to continue to do more. I'm going to introduce Matt Haylock from Arc America and Mark Richards. They can tell you a little bit about their companies as well.
Good evening. I'm Matt Haylock. I'm the president of Arc America in Gurnee, Illinois. I've been working with Delco and Mega Properties for about 10 years now. One of the projects that we discussed a few moments ago was one that we did together. We're also the architects for the Lake Plaza development, as well as the Forest Plaza development and the advanced auto parts. The project we'll be talking to you tonight about is it's a multi-family apartment building. I personally have designed about 70 of those buildings, and my company has done the bulk of those. There's a couple of examples there. One of them is Mount Prospect on the left, and one on the right is in Palatine. And Mark, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
And my name is Mark Richards, civil engineer on the project with Webster McGrath and Allberg. We've been in business since 1906 and have done just a lot of different projects for a wide range of clients, both private and governmental.
Okay, now that we've gone through kind of the team here, I'm going to talk more about the development. The site I've already put in that brighter green that you can tell, right on Diamond Lake. And then I have put a few other markers. I put the existing Village Hall. I put the proposed redevelopment area for the downtown. I located the other Diamond Lake Residences, which is the 18-unit apartment building that we own in the area.
And then I located the Parks and Recreation District, which is very close to the site. It's kind of like the entrance into the lake for the public. This is the aerial view of the site. It's highlighted in red. And as you can tell, it's similar to the other slide that I had of mega developments, because you can see that, you know, the other developments that we have. As Trustee Meyer said, you know, this was proposed a few years ago for a condominium project, 24-unit condominium project, and this is kind of the site plan of it. And we took this project, you know, we really liked the area, we really liked the site. So we took this project, and you know, we were very excited about it, but we weren't too excited of the design of the building. So what we've proposed now, we've proposed two scenarios that kind of makes it more architectural appealing, and also kind of fits the site a little bit better. So I'm going to have Matt explain to you, go through the two scenarios, and then I'll come back to me.
Just going to step back real quickly to the previous design. This is our starting point for our project. We started with the setbacks. There was a 10-foot building setback along the north side. There's a 30-foot building setback along the south side. Even though they didn't use it, there was a 15-foot setback. Actually, there's a utility easement here, and a 30-foot setback on the front. We didn't care for the way the building was oriented parallel to this property line. It lines up exactly with the property line, and we wanted to try to orient a building that was a little bit more attractive from a shape standpoint, but also providing as many units as we could with direct views to the lake.
One of the notes that you might want to make on this to everyone is that this was a plan not only previously proposed, but it was adopted by the board. So this plan was accepted previously by the board.
Yes, thank you. The other building was about 250 feet long. It was a long rectangle. We started with a similar length building, and basically we bent it. And what that did for us is it gave us some extra space in this corner. You can see when you bend the building, it gives you a little bit more space. What it does is we pick up a couple extra units per floor. It also gives us more parking inside. The other building was only 42 feet wide, so it only had parking on one side of the drive aisle, so it really wasn't very efficient from a parking standpoint. We made our building a little bit wider. It's almost 70 feet wide. What that does is it gives us parking on both sides of the drive aisle, and it also gives us a little bit more room for apartments up above. We stuck with the original setbacks, which was a 30-foot setback here along the lake. There was a 10-foot setback there, and we stuck with that. And we were actually closer to 30 feet on the south side. So on this building, what we really liked about it is the units all the way around almost have views to the lake. Just this side to the east, which faces Diamond Lake Road, only these few units here did not have direct views, or didn't have views at all. Basically, on this site plan, we have 38 indoor parking stalls and 26 exterior parking stalls for a total of 64 for 36 units. This is a close-up of the ground floor plan. Again, 38 parking stalls. The entry is here. We've got 2 exit stairs, both of them providing access. Well, this one provides access to the lake. This one is to the front. Trash is located on the inside of the building, so you won't see anything like that on the outside. Moving up to the residential floor, there's 3 floors of residences. Each floor is generally identical except for on the second floor next to the stair. It's a little bit different. The unit mix is 2 one-bedrooms per floor, 2 one-bedroom plus dens per floor, and 2 two-bedrooms per floor for a total of 12 units per floor. Times 3 is 36. The one-bedrooms range in size from about 700 to just over 800 square feet. The one-bedrooms plus dens are about 1,000 square feet. The two-bedrooms are between 1,100, and 1,350 square feet. And all of them have outdoor balconies, and the corner units even have a wraparound balcony. Want to mention, in constructing this, you'll notice that there's very distinct bearing walls here. That's because this building is constructed of masonry, concrete block bearing walls. Exterior walls are over a foot thick of brick and block. The floor structure is intended to be precast concrete with a 2-inch concrete topping. The roof will be a metal frame. So this is a very solid, high-quality building. A lot of apartment buildings you see are wood frame. We want a very high-quality, sound-resistant, fire-resistant building, and nothing but the best quality materials are used in this building. And it's actually very expensive too, about $20 a square foot extra to build it like this, so it is expensive. I apologize, the elevations are a little off color on this presentation, but what we have is across the street, our client's property is the Diamond Lake Residences. That's the smaller apartment building directly to the east. That building, if you've seen that before, it's very high quality, beautiful materials, deep overhangs, sloping roof with shingles. This building is very similar, a little bit different in character. We're on the lake, so we wanted to soften it up a little bit, give it not quite a rustic feel, but a softer feel. So at the base of the building, we've got an ashlar pattern stone, a much more random looking stone, very much less formal than the building across the street. Moving up to a darker color brick. On the top of the building, we'll have a lighter color brick, and the entry will be light color. The building across the street at the residences, there's recessed panels between the windows, very similar to this one. We want to keep some of the character the same, yet we want this building to have its own identity. Again, very high quality materials. The stonework is very expensive to construct that random look at the base of the building. The building is utility brick. That's one of the things that we're requesting a variation on. If you've seen the other buildings, the Lake Plaza, Forest Plaza, and the residences across the street, those are all utility brick. Very nice. They're not cheap brick. They're expensive bricks, and they're very nice, very solid, just like any other brick you would see.
I believe you brought in a sample.
We actually have a sample of a real brick. I've got samples in the hallway if you'd like to see a proposal, what we'd like to do. Would you like to see those? The colors? Okay, give me 1 second. I'll be right back.
That is a few samples of what we proposed for this building. I also brought an actual utility-sized brick from Diamond Lake Residences. This was the exact brick that we had from Diamond Lake Residences. Pass it around, or you guys can see it. I don't know if anybody wants it.
Yeah.
Weighs about 80 pounds. I didn't want to be hauling this around, but this is the type of stone that we're proposing to use at the base of the building. This is actually manufactured stone by Aeroscraft. It's not concrete. It's a calcium silicate. It's very similar to limestone in composition, except we can get a lot more different colors out of it. Very high quality material. This is the random pattern that we're talking about at the base of the building. The main portion of the building be something like this. It's a little softer than the one across the street. The other one is more of a burgundy iron spot. This is a more flashed reddish brown brick, much more casual looking. And then at the top of the building, something like this. Same quality of brick, just different colors. I want to try to soften it up for the residences. So the look of the building is going to continue around all 4 sides of the building. Actually, there's more than 4 sides because it's a V shape. But to see the same look all the way around the building. It's going to be very handsome and very elegantly detailed. It's kind of hard to tell on the CAD plan. I went through the breakdown already, but again, this is 4 stories, 36 units. The unit mix is 12 one-bedrooms. Some of those have dens, and 24 two-bedrooms. The variances that we're requesting is on the maximum building height. This is a 4-story building, as was the previous building was actually 5 stories. If I'm not mistaken, this is 4 stories, although it does have a sloped roof. It's 52 feet to the top of the sloped roof. We're asking for a variance on the setback. The setback since then has actually changed. Your new ordinance is 15 feet on the side yards, and so we're a little closer than that. Plus, some of our balconies and eaves overhang that because of the angles and so forth. Just some of those are encroaching into the setback a little bit more than we would like. The transparency variance has to do with having retail on the first floor and having glass, I believe. We're not going to have any retail in this building. Parking, we're asking for a variance. The brick material is actually a variance for the size of the brick, not really the material. We can get the same exact material, whether it be a utility or a modular size. We're proposing a utility size because of the scale of the building and the scale of stone we like to use. It all fits with, actually fits within the developments that we have in the neighborhood already, especially the ones across the street. Public access promenade, that has to do with the access to the promenade along Diamond Lake Road. I'm not 100% sure what that variance is for, so I'll let someone else speak to that a little bit later. So, why do we have 2 scenarios? We were basically following what was followed before as far as setbacks. Once civil engineers from Mark's company got involved, they started looking closely at the floodplain and floodway lines. Floodplain is generally determined by the elevation of the property. If your building is up high enough, out of the floodplain, above the floodplain elevation, you can put your building there. They also have what's called a floodway limits line, which is actually this line right here. You can see this is a 30-foot setback line. There's a floodway limits line. Normally, it's kind of like a setback line. There's calculations involved and so forth. I can let Mark explain that to you a little more if you have questions about it. But basically, what it is it's a setback line off of what's considered the floodway. Normally, on lakes, the floodway limit line is at the shoreline. So I was a little bit surprised. There was a little bit surprised from the engineering department and from the engineers that it would actually be in this location. And we addressed it with the county and the powers that be to see if we can have this moved. We're in that process now. I'll let Mark briefly talk about that after I'm through with this. But basically, if this floodway limits line, if we're stuck with that line, we need to move the building out of that. There's a possibility that we can have that reinterpreted and we can move it back to where it was. But that's a long process. We've already got financing for the project. But this is a worst case scenario. If we need to do this, we'll do it this way. So what we did is redesign the building as to fit outside that floodway limits line. So basically what it did is it forced us to rotate the building almost 180 degrees. So this side of the building is parallel with the lake. This side is parallel with this property line. So all these units here still have a nice view of the lake. However, we have more units here that don't face the lake. So that's one thing that we don't like about it. We've got a much larger compensatory storage area on this side. This is stormwater detention. It doesn't flow quite as well. We have the driveway on the front of the building, which is not our preference. But the site plan does work. We've got all the same components that we had before. In fact, we picked up a couple extra stalls on the inside, so we've got 40 interior parking stalls. On the previous one, we had 38. But on the outside, we lost one, so we've got a net of 65 parking stalls for the 24 or the 32 units. Otherwise, everything is very similar. The interior is very similar. We still have the indoor parking garage. It looks almost identical if you haven't seen the building before to the other one. Up above, same unit mix. We didn't show all the units again, but basically it's the same unit mix, except they're kind of redistributed. Not quite the view, quite what we're looking for, but it's still not too bad. The elevations would be exactly the same as the other building, just again reconfigured slightly. On the other scenario, we had a nicer front entry, a little bit wider. We still have a front entry feature, but it's not quite as prominent as the other one. All in all, still a very nice building, just not quite as nice as the other one. That would be our preference. We're hoping to have you approve both scenarios in case we can't get the floodway limits line moved to where it would normally be on the shoreline. We would build this one. If we get that moved and it's approved by the county and so forth, then we're going to go to the other scheme, which we think is a better scheme all around, although from your standpoint there isn't that much difference.
And so that's basically why you're showing both plans, is because of the floodplain and going to IDNR for that adjustment or realignment of...
Yes. The initial reaction that we got from them was that they were a little surprised, too, that it was actually that far into the property. And it's something that's doable, that they can relocate it so it's where it would normally be along the shoreline. But it's a long, multi-month process, and we'd like to get the building started this year. So we have a decision to make. Do we want which scheme we want to do? We want to wait, but then we wouldn't get it started right away. So ideally, we'll see how the schedule goes. We'll try to make a decision as soon as we can.
Right, and so that's, and it's an important distinction because tonight on the motions, all of the motions cover both of those scenarios. And if you get the approval with IDNR, then you're going to go with option one. And if you don't get the approval or make a decision that you need to not wait for that approval because it might take too long, there's a possibility that you might go with option two.
Exactly. So if you'd like to hear from our civil engineer, Mark is here. If you have any questions, otherwise we can field some questions regarding the building and the development as a whole.
Do any of the trustees want more information about the floodplain and why we have two different building configurations? Hearing none, then continue on.
Okay, so we can go through some, do you want to go through the civils? Sure. And the landscape plan?
Yeah, so this is the grading plan for scenario one, and I'll just explain briefly kind of how this is working. One of the differences between the original design and what we're proposing is the original design had a flow-through foundation under the building, and we got rid of that concept. We think this is a better design, actually, where it's a traditional foundation, so there's no water flowing under the building. And all the compensatory storage for fill that's placed in the floodplain will be in this basin in the front right here. And all this runoff from the building and from the parking lot will be conveyed into the stormwater detention system here in the corner that has two components. It has underground detention component, which is in pipes, and then above ground detention. This is just the utility plan for that same scenario that shows, the pipes going around the building and conveying everything into the detention facility. This is the landscape plan. It's pretty heavily landscaping that we're proposing. Just would highlight that what we're proposing for the detention basin and for the comp storage basin is native plantings. We felt this was, and it's also in accordance with Lake County Stormwater Ordinance, is the best vegetation to use for filtering the stormwater for water quality purposes. So the runoff will go into this detention basin, be filtered, then go into a storm sewer, then it'll outfall into this compensatory storage area, and then that would overflow into the lake. This is just the preliminary engineering plan for scenario 2. Basically, everything's, from an engineering standpoint, functions the same as the other plan. So the comp storage area is in the front, stretches along the whole front area here. And stormwater detention is again in the corner up here. And same concept with the landscaping. We've got native plantings in the comp storage basin and in the stormwater detention facility here, and then a wide variety of trees and bushes and shrubs and everything throughout the site.
As I'm looking at this, it seems like there's very little property that's not, say, a storm detention or whatever, or parking lot. Can you show me, if I lived there and I wanted to walk my dog, where would I be going?
Do you want me to answer that?
Well, I mean, I think that, you know, as far as pervious, impervious goes, we're leaving a lot of open space in terms of, you know, these areas here, compensatory storage areas and the detention.
For water. So let's assume it's rain and there's water in it.
Correct.
Now where am I going?
Well, you wouldn't be going in those basins, yeah. So those will be wet at that point. But you'd have, you know, you'd have access to the lakefront here.
But those are piers. Those are existing piers, right?
Correct. Right.
So
Boat
I'm not
slips.
walking my dog on a pier.
Right. So I guess you'd be walking. You know, there's sidewalk here that would
So
connect.
there's nowhere, I guess what I'm asking is, there's nowhere on your site that isn't either parking lot or potentially water retention or detention?
Yeah, it does sort of look that way on the plan, kind of way it's colored green. Let me go back to the other scheme. They're very similar, but really what you have is this area is level around the perimeter. There isn't a lot of open area in here if it's raining, but it's fairly level around and through here. You can walk around the building. There's actually a sidewalk here. You can walk through here. It's not all completely sloped, and this area will be relatively dry. Just this bottom of the basin generally is the part that's going to get wet. So you can walk around the perimeter.
So is that sidewalk that you're saying is going to be there 3 feet, 5 feet?
These are this is 4 feet here. I mean, we can make it wider. It's not, you know, it's not critical. It's just a connection, but it's not intended for outdoor. It's not you're correct. It does not have a huge outdoor living space that some places have, but we do have plenty of walking area, and we do have the balconies, and we do have the shoreline along here.
We have a proposed walkway in the front of our, by the lake that'll eventually connect to the rest of what Mundelein has proposed for Diamond Lake in order to walk around the lake.
And in your proposal, how many feet is that walkway?
8.
It just seems to me that places that would, people that would want to rent because of the amenity of being on the lakefront might actually want to be able to, I don't know, be on the lakefront at some point, have,
Be outside.
right, have chairs
Well, that's also why I kind of located the Parks and Recreation, which is really close to the site itself. It adds access to the lake.
Yes, however, in order to use those accesses, there's a fee. If you're not, there's a residential fee that you have to pay to have access to that.
Right.
You're not going to invite someone over and tell them, hey, you go out on our boat, you go hang down there.
Do you have a plan for a gathering area, a picnic table, outdoor grill? Anything that people living on the lake might like to do?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's space for that to be added.
Well, I guess that's what we're wondering. Is there space for that even? It doesn't, in that picture, it doesn't look like it.
It is possible that we can maybe reconfigure this just a little bit, give us more room in through here. There's a little bit of area that's not really efficient. It's just a little small space. Maybe we can take advantage of more of this space all along the lake in through here. This scheme's a little bit easier to do that on because we've got a little bit more leeway here and might require a little bit of adjustment from an engineering standpoint, maybe a little bit more of underground storage. But maybe we can finagle this around a little bit to give us a nice patio area that people can use, some outdoor living space. We're not going to get a lot of it here, but we will have some.
The scenario 2, you won't get it at all.
Only along through here. Right now we have this walkway connection which has retaining walls on either side. But it's possible we can reconfigure that a little bit and kind of create an outdoor living space. Maybe at this connection here, maybe we create 2, maybe one over here and one over here, and just reshape this a little bit just to create some wider spaces. We're not going to get a huge lawn to have a big party on necessarily, but we'd have space for gathering.
So were you anticipating that this would turn into an HOA type building so that it...
The quality of the building itself allows for it too. I also wanted to just point out we do have, the balconies are, big balconies that do allow for, barbecue.
Okay, because that's my next question, because a lot of apartment houses do not allow grills for fire safety issues. There are no grills on their balconies.
It's in the development agreement as far as the type of grills that are allowed. It's in the CCRs in the development agreement. And it just follows Village of Mundelein ordinances.
So you will allow individual units to have grills?
I believe, yes.
The proposed restrictions and regulations are very similar to those that the board approved for Cardinal Square, if that helps.
Which were, for those that don't know about Cardinal Square, which were what?
Gas.
Gas grills?
Correct.
Gas or electric? No charcoal.
If I could just speak to Trustee Voss's concern, I think one thing to keep in mind with this site compared to many, many other sites is that it's almost all of the site is floodplain in the existing conditions. So we're taking that floodplain and we're relocating it to the front and then providing stormwater detention. So I think when you have floodplain on a property like that to some degree it limits how you use that open space.
I don't know if it would help to maybe show again the first plan that was the original plan that's already been approved by the board. And that plan could still be developed because it has been approved.
At the very beginning, right? Yeah, so this is the approved plan, and it has the very similar use. It's a little hard to see, but this was compensatory storage here, and and then there's underground detention here, and there's a flow-through foundation under the building here. So
there's probably more opportunity to include the kind of area that you're looking for and talking about in the new proposal than the original one that we already approved.
Really, because as I look at it, you've got area down here towards the street and some other ones. But, I didn't support that development either, so let's be honest about it. I didn't think that was a good choice.
I have a quick question. Will your apartment allow dogs and cats?
As of right now, I think we had said no, it does not, but I'd have to check the development agreement again, because that is in the development agreement under the CCRs as well. But I do not know off the top of my head.
Okay, I was just wondering.
Yeah, I'm sorry, we do allow them? Yeah, they're allowed. I knew it was in there, I just don't remember. And I guess our last slide was basically just kind of just in summary, kind of that's the picture of the building that we had at 755 Diamond Lake, which is the 18-unit apartment building. Similar quality. Matt already touched upon the exterior, the construction, as far as the brick and block masonry, the precast. Both of them have covered parking lot, and then inside you're going to have granite countertops, custom cabinets, stainless steel appliances. Both scenarios offer excellent views of Diamond Lake, and then both slip rentals. And so here are some of the pictures from Diamond Lake residences as far as the interior finishes go.
Can you go back?
Yeah, that concludes our presentation. You guys have any other questions?
A little bit to the board about the actual development agreement, okay?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, members of the Board of Trustees. My name is Matt Norton. I'm a partner with Holland & Knight, and I've represented the village's special counsel on the negotiation and preparation of this development agreement. There are a few timing issues and time frames I wanted to bring to the board's attention, and some other facets of the development agreement that I wanted to touch on briefly. Mega right now is a contract purchaser, or actually they're a single purpose entity. The Coes of Mundelein LLC is a contract purchaser of the property. So they don't own it yet, but they do have a contract to buy it. The agreement gives them 6 months to acquire the property, and when they do that, they're required to submit to the village administrator a notice that they've done that and establish to his satisfaction that they've acquired the property free and clear of any encumbrances that would prevent it from being developed in accordance with the agreement that's before you tonight. And I think the reason that's important to take that extra step is this is a property that's been, it's distressed in some regard, and I think it's important to take that step to make sure that when they do acquire it, they've got the rights that they need to develop it. If that doesn't happen, then the agreement that we're talking about tonight would terminate, and the old documents would remain in effect. So the old condominium project is still in effect, and all the ordinances that relate to it are in effect. If they do acquire the property and the village administrator makes that determination, then the old documents are terminated, and the new documents that we're talking about tonight would go into effect. Another timing issue is this Scenario 1, Scenario 2 issue. The developer has a year after the date that the agreement is approved to pursue, and they must diligently pursue Scenario 1. That is their preferred concept. That's the village staff's preferred concept. And if that's approved, that has final engineering plans as part of it already that would be approved as part of the agreement. If that doesn't get approved within a year, then we take the other fork in the road, and that is scenario 2. Scenario 2 has preliminary engineering plans approved, but the developer would be required to get final engineering plans approved as part of that. So within a year from the approval of the development agreement, you'll know for sure which way you're going. The agreement has a 20-year term, and that's subject to a couple of potential earlier terminations. One is if they don't acquire the property free and clear within the 6-month time period. The other is they've got to pull a building, or they've got to submit a building permit application within 1 year after the development agreement is approved. So this will not be hanging out there for eternity. It does some relatively short time frames that have to be satisfied. If the agreement remains in effect and goes forward, it does provide as an incentive to development a relaxation of village impact fees that are otherwise applicable. And the 2 fees that they would pay are the sewer expansion fee at $3,440 per unit, and the water expansion fee at $415 per unit. All other impact fees, village impact fees, as they relate to the 12 additional units over and above the 24, would be waived. The developer, current owner, has already paid substantial impact fees for the original 24 units that were approved. Those are not being refunded. With respect to school and park donations, those would still be paid to the schools and the park in accordance with donation agreements that the developer must negotiate with and get approved and submit to the village, and they have to do that before they get a certificate of occupancy from the village. There are apartment building CCRs that would apply to this property, and as Mr. Barrera said, very similar to what you recently saw with respect to the Cardinal Square project. I would encourage you to, if you're inclined to take a final vote tonight, it's a pretty complex agreement, and there are many ordinances attached to it that would be approved by the village board. 8 variation ordinances. 6 of those require a 2/3 vote of the trustees for approval, and that's because they received a negative recommendation from the Plan Commission. 2 of them do not require a 2/3 vote of trustees. And when I say 2/3 of trustees, Mr. Marino will correct me if I'm wrong, but that means 4 of the 6 trustees without regard to the mayor's vote. So just want to be clear about.
And without regard to Mr. Sembol's absence.
Correct.
It would require
4 of 5 tonight. And then there are also, there's an ordinance that approves 4 different plats, 2 plats of vacation and 2 plats that vacate old restrictive covenants, and 2 plats that approve new restrictive covenants, 1 for each scenario. So scenario 1 has a plat of vacation and a plat of restrictive covenants. Scenario 2 has the same. So there's a lot going on here, and I think it would make sense before putting a motion, before voting on the development agreement, to discuss the variation ordinances and to discuss the plats, and so we know what's going in and out of this agreement. We've set the agreement up so that it can be approved tonight, even if some of the variation ordinances are not approved by the board. They can be pulled out. They're separate documents. But it would be a lot less confusing if you all discussed before you start taking votes who's in favor of what, who's not in favor of what, count noses, and then we'll have a clear picture of what exactly it is you're voting on when the time comes.
Yes, a question in regard to the fees.
Yeah.
You had mentioned the sewer expansion fee, and maybe I misunderstood you. Did you say it was $2,440 a unit?
I think it's $3,440.
It's $3,000.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. And payable. The building would have a occupancy permit for all 36 units at one time?
Well, I mean, I think that depends on the course of construction. that would take, but.
The agreement says that this is payable at the time of an occupancy permit, so that's unit by unit?
Well, I think it would be
Well,
for an
we've got
apartment
20
building, I assume it would be a single certificate of occupancy, or at least that would speak to the first CO. Those agreements would have to be in place before the first CO was issued.
Right.
I don't know, Pete, would it be a single for an apartment building, single CO?
Probably by unit.
By unit?
Right. They have all the elements done, their suppression, life safety.
Now, 24 units the fees have already been paid.
Correct.
In this amount.
I think the road impact fee was not paid, but I think all other fees were paid. Is that right, Amanda?
That was a $50,000 amount? And that wasn't paid by the previous owner, and that's not going to be required of this. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so, yeah, let's keep discussing this.
I'm sorry.
Right?
You
I was
go.
just
Go
going to
ahead.
suggest that perhaps, Matt, you can identify for the board the variances that you're asking them to discuss, and maybe they can just kind of go through them one at a time.
Sure.
That way it might be a little bit clearer.
Before you do that, though, could you just explain to me how we can vacate the prior approval for this, why can't we just vacate it in total?
I don't follow your question.
Okay, so what you said is that if we don't approve this,
Right.
that the old plan stands.
Correct.
But you said if we approve this, we have the authority to vacate that other plan. Why can't we just vacate that other plan?
Because these plats will only go into effect by the terms of the agreement if they acquire the property, and if the village says, yes, you've acquired it free and clear of encumbrances and it's ready to go. A plat can be vacated only with the consent of the owner, property owner. We can't unilaterally vacate a plat.
That was what I was wondering, because I know there are other things that expire in time and whatever. So in the other agreement, there was no safety for the village as there is with this one, that you must build within a year.
I don't recall there being an unwinding in the first agreement.
For how long? But it could still unwind.
The time for starting construction was extended 2 or 3 times. I don't know presently what the extension runs.
So, in fact, we might have had some protection for us in that if they, in fact, didn't start building by a certain date, that is actually no longer their permission or whatever is no longer valid.
The development agreement runs for 20 years. If they didn't meet whatever the condition was for starting construction, and the village did not extend the time, then you could consider the possibility of terminating that development agreement. I don't have that development agreement in front of me for many years since I looked at it. We have to check it out, and plus check out what the latest extension was.
It'd be interesting to know.
And when I say the old documents remain in effect, they remain in effect according to their terms. This is not intended to revive anything that has previously expired.
Right, but if the other agreement would have some type of expiration date, then the sort of mild threat, if you will, that if you don't approve this, the other one stands, isn't as effective if it would just expire. Because he still doesn't have the money to build it, so neither here nor there.
Okay.
Okay,
You wanna
I'm sorry,
continue?
now
No,
you could
that's
go
all
with
right.
the.
Okay.
What, these variations?
Yeah.
Okay.
The first one in the agenda is height variation. And then there's a side yard setback variation.
Give the letters of them, 'cause that's how we're
Yeah.
looking at
Like
it.
E and F.
It's G1E, height
G1.
variation.
Wait a second.
These are the ones that failed the plan commission level.
G1E was an ordinance granting a height variation. That one received a negative recommendation by the Plan Commission and requires a 2/3 of the trustees vote.
If you're looking online, it's one.
Thank you.
Welcome.
John, you want me to identify them all first? Okay. The next one, which is item G1F, is a motion to pass an ordinance granting a side yard setback variation. That also received a negative recommendation by the Plan Commission. The next one is G1G, motion to pass an ordinance granting a transparency requirement variation. That received a positive recommendation by the Plan Commission. The next one is G1H, motion to pass an ordinance granting a variation for building materials, and this is for the utility brick. This received a negative recommendation by the Zoning and Planning Commission. And next one is G1I, motion to pass an ordinance granting a variation to waive the requirement for the public access promenade, and specifically, and that also did not receive a negative recommendation. The way the ordinance is written is it doesn't waive the promenade requirement under scenario 1. It keeps the requirement but says it can be only 8 feet wide as opposed to 12 feet wide. For scenario 2, because final engineering is not done yet, that variation ordinance would say when you go do final engineering, you've got to design the promenade, and as long as it complies with applicable law as determined by the village engineer, you build it. If the village engineer says it doesn't comply with applicable law, then it's waived. G1J is the next one. That's motion to pass an ordinance granting a variation to allow the eaves to encroach further into the setback. That received a positive recommendation. G1K, motion to pass an ordinance granting a parking variation. That received a negative recommendation. And then the final variation ordinance is G1L, motion to pass an ordinance granting an interior parking lot landscaping variation, and that received a negative recommendation. So those are the variation ordinances, and then there's a motion to pass an ordinance approving the plats of vacation and plats of covenants that I discussed earlier, and then the last motion would be to authorize staff to issue a certificate of compliance for building materials, design, and landscaping.
Well, why don't let's count the noses. Can we do that?
Well,
Or do we want to
I'm
keep
wondering
discussing,
if
or?
we should, just for the benefit of the new kids on the block, talk about what the standards are for granting a variance. The justification of hardship is our standard. Does anybody have an ordinance book that we can?
Well, the Plan Commission was in charge of
Right, well,
determining that.
they determined that these did not meet the justification of hardship, but that's why they failed.
Let me ask you, did they fail because they got only 3 votes, 3 to 2, or?
Some of them, to make things even more confusing,
Yeah.
some of them received 3 votes in favor, 2 against. But under state law, under the Illinois Municipal Code, a variation is deemed to receive a positive recommendation only if it receives at least 4 votes. So a 3 to 2 vote is even the findings are positive, but the recommendation by law is negative.
Right.
But not all of them got a 3-2 vote.
They didn't all get 3-2. Some failed by larger margins.
And recall there are 2 absent members then, although 1 absent member and 1 seat unfilled.
Yep.
Would you like to begin to, would you like somebody at this end to
Yeah,
begin?
let's go ahead and start just getting your general opinions, and then we can put this together.
In regard to a plan commission recommendation and the finding of fact, the plan commission is tasked with making a recommendation in regard to land use. And in my view, no other aspect of consideration. And yet this board has many, many other considerations and thoughts. And my thought in regard to this particular proposal and the variations that go along with it and will be required is that Mr. Kazonis and his group, his organization, are well known to us. We have seen what quality is in regard to what he is doing, not only in Mundelein, but in 4 different states. And we understand that he knows what he's doing. This particular piece of property is one that is difficult from the standpoint of creating a multifamily rental type facility. And I really don't have a problem with any of these variations other than the landscaping in the parking lot, but there seems to be no way of taking more room out of the parking lot and still achieving 64 spaces. The decrease in spaces from 70-some to 60-some I don't think is an issue in a 36-unit building. And neither are these other. I think that these variation requests are minor. The additional story from 3 stories to 4 stories gets us above our maximum height requirement, so we grant a variation for that. But I'm convinced that this organization is one that will create a successful project because he has shown us that that's what he intends to do and has done in the past. So I would voice no objection to these variation requests.
Okay. Trustee Kim?
I spent a lot of time studying the materials and plans and things like that, and he has utilities and everything mapped. Everything was well thought through. Even the materials are high quality. I have to add on to the same, jump on the fact that he's already developed many places in Mundelein, and I see that it's good quality. I like the fact that he's using natives. It's kind of progressive, actually. He's using the soil filtration. My concerns are only about safety and building materials, but he's choosing high quality. And unless fire is going to tell me that brick is any worse than any other brick, I saw the previous plans.
No, I'm not going to tell you that because that's a fire-resistant building, and compared to wood frame construction, this clearly is an outstanding building. So.
And I wasn't crazy about the previous planned building, which I had no part in, but I did see it, and I'd have to say this is pretty upscale. It's hard to turn down.
Well, it's not hard for me. So let's start with that. First of all, the justification of hardship is not whether or not we like the builder. It's not whether or not we think it's a good quality thing. It's a justification of hardship that I don't feel this meets, because he wants to make more money. He needs to have a taller building. Therefore, we should just give it to him. because he wants to make more money, he needs to put in more units or make something wider, then he can't put in enough landscaping in the parking lot. Well, we should just allow that to happen. We spent a lot of money on a comprehensive plan, and our comprehensive plan was very specific that we wanted buildings along the lake to have transparency so that public could still see the lake amenity. And between where the building is situated and the fact that there is no transparency on the first floor, we're violating in our first chance at Diamond Lake, we're violating our own comp plan that we spent all these years to develop and we were so serious about. Our first time out of the block, we're already throwing it aside. I support our plan commission. I think that there's a reason that they said no to these and that they considered them, and they said that they don't meet the requirements of what we have set for ourselves. And I have to say that I do wonder if what you're saying, Trustee Sullivan, is, well, we know him and we know he'll do a good thing, because the other half of that is, do you mean to say if it was someone we didn't know that you wouldn't allow the variance and that we're only allowing it because it's someone we know? Because that, I believe, gets us into trouble. So, I've never been a proponent of really granting variances without a justification of hardship. I'm sticking with it. I think that this is a nice building. I think if it gets built, the residents will enjoy it. I think that the other residents will have the view of the lake diminished. I think that it is problematic that there isn't enough space on this property for people who live there to enjoy the amenity of the lake. I think that that's going to be troublesome moving forward. I think that possibly there isn't enough parking and that there's going to be overflow parking that is going to be on the property on the shopping center. They'll utilize that. And then we're going to have to worry about people coming across the lake and whether or not that's going to be a safety issue. I mean, I see some issues here that I think need to be worked out, not the least of which is, even if you like the building, I can't think of when we've approved something, say, well, you could build this or you could build that. I think that he should choose what he's going to build and then come back to us, and then we should view that plan and vote on its merits. Because there is a difference between situation 1 and situation 2.
I'll comment, because years ago, I joined you in voting against that previous project.
Mm-hmm.
It was one of my first votes. I think it was like my first meeting as a trustee when that came up, and I joined you in opposing that. Now, if you recall, that building was designed because it allowed the public to see through to the lake. And in my opinion, and I think yours too, that was the way that it was situated, made it pretty much an unmarketable, condominium project. And indeed, it didn't sell very well. I could see it coming a mile away. And now we have a property that's designed to be marketable, more highest and best use, better highest and best use, more appropriate. Which is it? Kind of a thing. I mean, we didn't like the property that allowed seeing through to the lake, and now we have a much higher quality building. Yeah, there's less view from the public, but it's clearly a better use. So I'm kind of just wondering where you're at in that regard. Now, in terms of the hardship, it's on a floodplain. There's a floodway right there. That makes the design challenges that they've overcome. I think, I'd appeal to you to consider the fact that there's a floodway right there that requires some pretty creative designing going on. And I think that they've come up with a pretty creative solution here.
Well, I'm not sure, because it could be situation 1 or situation 2, but
Right.
I get concerned. If there's a floodplain, that means that you're not really supposed to build there. And we're saying, well, we're going to give you some leeway so that you can build there anyway. Well, maybe you're not supposed to build on a floodplain, and that's why it's harder. And in terms of your other question, yeah, I didn't like the other building. Because why? Because in our comprehensive plan, What we said was that we wanted transparency on the ground floor. Hopefully, it would be some commercial thing with residential above it, and neither one of these buildings have given us what our comp plan suggested belong there.
The comp plan says multi-use, including multi-residential. This
Yes.
fits the comprehensive plan. You want commercial on the ground floor. Okay. Okay. Trustee Abernathy.
Okay. Okay, this plan has me, first of all, tonight really is the first time I'm realizing there is two scenarios. In all the discussion, didn't realize that there was either this one or that one. So maybe that's my bad, or whoever discussed this with me did not tell me, well, it's either this one or that one. So I'm agreeing with Trustee Voss that which one are we going with, because scenario 2, I don't know that I would vote yes for scenario 2. So I don't want to be thinking that I'm voting yes and can get stuck with scenario 2. So that I don't like. However, the east side of Diamond Lake, as those that know, was something that I actually ran on. It is something that I really strongly believe in. And I do know that nothing will happen down there without more residents down there. So I do like the fact that this will be a building with residents to live there. I don't like it not being multi-use. But where it's located, it's not in the heart of that area, so I'm kind of wavering on that. So I'm kind of okay with it just being residential, where I wasn't. And, but I don't like the fact that we might get stuck with scenario 2.
What about the variances?
The variances in the height, that's fine with me. You know what, going 3 stories, 4 stories, that I don't have a problem with. 10 less parking spots, 64 parking spots, I don't have a problem with that. I don't. You know, it's still going to be enough if they have to park across the street. I don't know what kind of an impact that's going to have. Will it be a negative impact? Well, it'll be a negative impact on the person that has to walk across the street.
On the person driving. It's in a curve, it's not real visible.
Right, so they're, you know, I don't know. But the park, yes, I don't have a problem with the variances. I don't like, though, getting stuck with.
What don't you like about scenario 2?
Scenario 2, the way it's situated, there is absolutely, there is no way to get any kind of green space, any kind of, you know, people live on the lake, want to enjoy the lake. Right. People don't live on the lake to stay on their deck. You know what I'm saying? Right. So if you live on the lake, you want to be by the lake. I don't know anyone who lives on the lake and stays on their deck.
Can I just get clarification? This floodway on scenario 2, that floodway between the building and the lake, it's just all kind of shaded there. Okay. What is it going to be in real life? It's just shaded. Is it going to be filled with water when it rains? And when it's not raining, is it just wetlands? Is it a beautiful lawn that's manicured? Can you describe what goes there so we have a better idea?
That area is providing the compensatory storage for the floodplain fill. And what we're proposing there is native plantings. So those will be initially plugs that'll be planted, and they'll have deep roots that encourage infiltration into the ground. And
is this a level piece of land?
Fairly level, yeah, pretty flat.
But it'll be plants, it won't be grass.
Correct. Native plantings, correct.
Yeah,
So,
because I thought it would go like, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it will slope from the building, it'll slope down. And then, yeah, because see that where the lake from the edge of the water, even that walk that's along the lake is all floodplain because that's all low.
Right.
So this will just be a continuation of that low area, and then it rises up to the building. And it's just a limitation of the property. If there were not floodplain on the property, that would be a front lawn.
Right.
So the fact that there's floodplain on the property that needs to be managed requires that that area remain in the floodplain and provide the compensatory storage for portions of the site that are being filled.
Okay. Mr. Kazonis, did you want to say a few words?
I'd like to add a little bit, because it seems like in the front there, we're going to have a walk. We're going to have a sidewalk that you walk along the lake. And the area is going to be fairly flat. And we're going to have areas for people to walk and go and enjoy the lake. It's not going to be like it's going to be water and nobody can walk back there. It's not the intent to do that.
Yeah, to Mr. Kazoni's point, I mean, for majority of the days, it's not going to be saturated conditions out there. I mean, it's typically after rainfall that you would where it would be wet. But for most of the year, it's not going to remain that sort of really wet condition.
Well, if we have the water floods that we have, probably nobody wants to go back there. But 90% of the year, you can go back there, walk your dog, and come all around. There's a lot of area around both scenarios for people to walk around. We have a lot of landscaping there. We're going to spend over $150,000 in landscaping, trees, bushes, to walk all around, flowers. It's not like the way that Commissioner Moss states that like it's going to be water. Nobody can walk back there.
No.
And actually, we talked with the village manager that we're going to have a walk there. That if people they want to walk all around the lake, about 10 feet, for people they can walk and enjoy the lake.
So you'll have a walkway spanning the width of the property along the water, okay? Roughly 8 to 10 feet in width. Okay.
Even they can go with a bike or a walk or and also on the north area there, we're going to have like a picnic area. So we're going to have an area that people can go there and enjoy.
I'm sorry, where?
I can show you on the point.
It would be along the water's edge. So there's a seawall there, and then immediately adjacent to the seawall would be that walk.
So on the walk, you would put a picnic table.
No, I think what he's referring to, and I think that can be done, is we could create. Do we have a pointer? I mean,
There.
I think what could happen under both scenarios is all of this buffer area, which is above the sort of native planting area, would all be.
All that area is about 15 feet, 20 feet.
Yeah, so that's a buffer area, and then this area here.
All that area.
And this walk actually, this is actually sloped down. It's not. There's not a retaining wall there or anything. We're proposing to grade that down. And yeah, so I feel like we've made the best use of this property in terms of still.
Where's the
functioning
north
it.
area that Mr. Kazoni said that they could put a?
All that area there, that corner there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you can create here a picnic area if you want to. All this area here is about 10, 15 feet from here. That people they can go with bikes, they can walk up in here. Then here you can create, if you want a little area. Here you can create another area.
But it would be in the
and
walkway.
all this here is about 20 feet here. So people they can walk. They can walk here. Here is another area.
So they can from the building to that
Yeah.
green is about 15, 20 feet.
20 feet, yeah. So it's a big area. That
Yeah,
people
that
they can come out here and that people they can walk here And here, it's a big area here. So again, I can go back now.
And those boat slips, those are for residents only?
No, people that they live in the building.
Okay, that's what I meant. Residents of your building
Residents of the
only. You
building
won't
only.
rent them out.
Right, right.
Trustee Boss, so the CCNRs require that they provide right of first refusal for a period of time to be determined to residents of the building, and then after that, they can rent slips to residents of their other buildings. But that's it.
They could rent them to people across the street.
Right.
If no one in the immediate building wanted to use them, what if there's a change in ownership and someone else moves in and they want one of those slips that someone across the street has? Is there a time where that?
No, that's just, everybody has to, even if we sell the building, that we don't sell the building.
Apartment rental, so there'd be no conveyance of a boat slip, there's no deed.
No.
Okay.
It doesn't run with the unit, in other words, the boat slip.
It's with the building.
They're annual leases, so when the term expires.
The slip expires.
Right.
Yeah, you can renew it to the new tenant who might be in the building.
Okay, that was my.
Because you can't really control, kick somebody off their boat slip necessarily, but on an annual lease, you have that turnaround similar to apartments.
Maybe I could just make one comment about
Sure.
the floodway, because that is what's driven scenario 2 before you today. Trustee Abernathy mentioned a concern about that. I think everyone's first choice is option number 1. And option number 2 is if, and I've been in discussions with the IDNR and have gotten very positive feedback, initial feedback. And so we're now in the process of getting that floodway limit revised. But if
You can't do it till you own the property.
well, it's just the whole process.
Right.
They review, and then there's a 3-week public comment period, and then so there's a lot of time involved. But if for some reason, because you can't guarantee that they will, I mean, it's looking promising. But if they don't, then we feel like scenario 2 is like the second best plan, and that has still maintains that area in the front for compensatory storage, and then the area in the rear for detention. So it follows a lot of the same design concepts.
Okay. Trustee Meyer.
Yeah, I mean, this package was like 196 pages of material, and possibly I believe that one of the things that may not have been brought up is in the parking variance. I believe that there's an agreement for overflow parking on the property across the street, so I believe that that's already been included and set up, correct?
That's a condition of the variation that they would have to have that overflow parking agreement, right?
Right, so that has, I mean, it's not something we have to worry about coming, it's already
Well,
included.
the agreement itself, I don't know that that's been prepared at this time, but the ordinance would not go into effect until it is.
Okay. So, I mean, that's one aspect that I don't think was specifically brought up. When we're talking about the comprehensive plan and the transparency aspect, I'm sure many of you have driven that curve, and while I would love to look at the lake as many other people, it's a safety hazard to look at that lake when you're navigating that curve around Diamond Lake Road. So, I mean, there's one aspect on that. The other aspect is when we're talking transparency and retail on the bottom floor, while I do agree with that premise in general, that you also have to apply it where it's realistic, and in that location you do have retail across the street, and I just don't think that that is a site that's conducive to having retail on that first floor from a transparency aspect, and so I don't think that even though we have a comprehensive plan and that is the general direction that we want, I don't think you try and force fit something that really doesn't belong in a particular location. So I'm fine with not having that transparency and retail on the floor as we would prefer, even though it's the first one out of the gate where we're not following a comprehensive plan. Comprehensive plan is still based on common sense and where it actually works, and in a situation where it doesn't, you just don't force fit it.
Okay. I think we're ready to, did you have any other comments after hearing the,
Well,
counting the noses?
Counting the noses, but I think I have a half a nose over here.
Yeah.
3.5 is not enough. I mean, it sort of depends on Trustee Abernathy's how important the not having scenario 2 is to her, and I can't speak for her on that.
Right. I mean, does it have to be tonight? Because, 2 weeks, Trustee Semple will be back.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, it certainly does not have to be tonight. I believe Mega has some pressure from the current holder of the mortgage on the property, or the probably more accurate to say the current owner has pressure from the current mortgage holder on the property. But that's about all I know about that situation. They could probably speak to that better than I can as to how much pressure is on them to have a decision made this evening, as opposed to 2 weeks from tonight.
Sure. Yep. Pardon? Yes.
I was just going to confirm exactly what Council just said. There is a sizable amount of pressure that is placed on the existing owner by his lender to get this deal closed.
Okay. Sir, what is your name, just for the clerk?
My name is Nicholas Black. I'm part of Mega. I'm part of Mega Group.
Thank you. Okay. Let's go. Let's, I think we know about the pressure coming, and that's why we did this tonight, knowing that even Trustee Semple would be gone. There is pressure to get this done with the banks and everything. So that's why we're here.
And I
yes,
would
Trustee Brown.
gladly call the motions, except I've got 2 different papers with 2 different numbering schemes. And so when we were going on which ones you want, if you want a guide on which
Sure.
ones you
Do you want me to just read the motion, or want the clerk to read
Read
it?
the motion, then I'll ask for someone to make the motion you read. How about that? Okay?
And then that way we get the proper order.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
And, all right, the first one is motion to adopt a resolution approving the development agreement by and between the Village of Mundelein and Coves of Mundelein LLC and Diamond Cove LLC, parentheses, Code of Mundelein.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Meyer. Second by Sullivan. Discussion on the motion. Clerk, please call the roll.
Meyer?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Voss?
No.
Kim?
Yes.
Abernathy?
Yes.
Next motion is a motion to accept the Planning and Zoning Commission findings of fact with respect to the following variations: height variation, ground floor transparency variation, public promenade variation, eaves encroachment variation, interior parking landscaping variation.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Wait.
Okay. We're taking a pause here. You got this?
No, because it doesn't follow us on the agenda, so it makes it very difficult.
But and yeah, that's the.
And so I just want to make sure for the clerks.
I do. That's what I'm reading off of.
Yes, so
The
we're
motion-
accepting those motions that we're going to agree with, and the next one is the motions that you all are not agreeing
This
with.
is just accepting the findings of fact. This is not approving the variations yet.
So the way we have it on the agenda just says motion to accept the Planning and Zoning Commission findings of fact with respect to certain variations.
Those are the ones
And
you agree with.
the way it was worded that way is because we wouldn't know until we had this discussion which of those variations we're talking about.
If you could just
For the purposes of the staff of the motions on the agenda, the motions are abbreviated. The full motion is incorporated in the staff report, and that's found on page 6. If you look at page 6 of the staff report, that is verbatim what Matt is walking us through. But for the purposes of the agenda, we give an abbreviated motion.
And Victor, if we're following the page 6, the order of that, then I can go ahead and read that if that's the order we're following.
Yes, that is the order that we're following. We're following the motions listed on page 6 of the staff report.
Would you like me to annotate as if necessary?
Yes.
Sure. All right.
Okay, so Trustee Meyer, did you make that motion?
Yes, I did.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Sullivan. Discussion on the motion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Meyer,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Voss,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
Abernathy.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, and then the next one is a motion to reject the Planning and Zoning Commission's findings of fact with respect to certain variations.
And those are side yard variation, utility brick variation, and parking reduction variation.
And I'll make that motion.
Motion by Meyer,
Second.
second by Abernathy. Discussion?
Yes, now, we want to clarify for everybody. These are findings of fact wherein the Plan Commission voted in a negative way in regarding these variations. And if we vote to reject that recommendation, we are accepting those variations.
That you'll take care of that in the next motion, which is a motion to make your own findings with respect to those 3 variations.
So
We're not immediately accepting them with.
Well, you're rejecting
So this doesn't
them.
matter. What we do here doesn't matter.
Okay.
All right. Still going to reject it.
Or not.
Okay.
Or not.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Meyer,
Yes.
Abernathy,
Yes.
Voss,
No.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Kim.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, the next motion is a motion to make the following findings of fact with respect to some or all of the variations identified under motion 3. And that would be the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in undue hardship. The plight of the owner is due to unique circumstances. The variation, if granted, will not alter the essential character of the locality.
And again, those variations identified under motion 3 are side yard variation, utility brick variation, parking reduction variation.
Motion by Meyer,
Second.
second by Sullivan. Discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Meyer,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Abernathy,
Yes.
Voss,
No.
Kim.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, the next is a motion to pass an ordinance granting a height variation to section 20.44.030 of the Mundelein Municipal Code for codes of Mundelein with respect to the property at 728 Diamond Lake Road, Mundelein, Illinois. And I make that motion.
Second.
Motion by Meyer, second by Sullivan. Discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Meyer,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
Voss,
No.
Abernathy.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, the next motion is a motion to pass an ordinance granting a side yard setback variation to section 20.44.030 of the Mundelein Municipal Code for codes of Mundelein with respect to the property at 728 Diamond Lake Road, Mundelein, Illinois.
Motion by Meyer,
Second.
second by Sullivan. Discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Meyer,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
Voss,
No.
Abernathy.
Yes.
Motion carries.
The next is a motion to pass an ordinance granting a variation to section 20.44.040B2 of the Mundelein Municipal Code to waive the transparency requirement for codes of Mundelein with respect to the property at 728 Diamond Lake Road, Mundelein, Illinois.
Motion by Meyer,
Second.
Second by Sullivan. Discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Meyer,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Abernathy,
No.
Kim,
Yes.
Voss.
No.
No.
Correct. So the mayor needs to vote.
Okay. I'll vote yes. Okay. Motion carries.
Okay, the next motion is to pass an ordinance granting a variation for building materials to section 20.44.040E1 of the Mundelein Municipal Code for Coves of Mundelein with respect to the property at 728 Diamond Lake Road, Mundelein, Illinois.
Second.
Motion by Myers, second by Sullivan. Discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Meyer,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
Voss, Abernathy.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, the next is a motion to pass an ordinance granting a variation to section 20.44040F2 of the Mundelein Municipal Code to waive the requirement of the public access promenade for Coves of Mundelein with respect to the property at 728 Diamond Lake Road, Mundelein, Illinois.
Motion by Meyer,
A second. Discussion on this one?
second by Sullivan. Discussion?
Yeah, I second. There was discussion in regard to the public access promenade or a public walkway around the lake. At the time of this discussion, and perhaps it was 4 or 5 years ago, there was a great deal of objection on the part of residents who live on the lake in regard to public access promenade. And so I have no concern whatsoever to waive this requirement, even though it doesn't connect. It's like causing somebody to build a sidewalk that sometime might connect. In effect, there is going to be a structure there. It just won't be according to the code. But I really have lots of hesitation in regard to requiring public access walkway along the lake. And so I have no concern of supporting this motion.
So perhaps there could be some verbiage that it's like land banked until such time that there would be connection. Right? What about that?
Well, the other thing, I see what you're saying, but my problem is that they'll do it, but then we have residents that are living there that are not going to allow it to connect further down.
Yes. So my point would be, if it's never going to connect, then we shouldn't be requiring them to build something, right, that doesn't
Right.
connect. So
Right.
maybe what you do is you land bank it. If there's, in the future, sometimes where we could really, the residents choose to, and it's public property or whatever, and there could be a promenade around, at that time they have to build it. Until that time, if they choose to build it, then it's something that their residents can use.
Okay.
I'm changing your little verbiage. I don't know if that's creating a problem for you, Matt.
Well, it's not a problem. It's just a matter of time, wordsmithing it and not only the ordinance, but the agreement may require some wordsmithing also.
Well, I don't see a problem with this, the way this is written at this point in time. I think the owner wants to construct an amenity for his project.
Right.
And as far as connecting to other amenities and make it open to the public, really have to be concerned about. But at this point in time, I don't see a problem with this, the way this is written. It's what we do in the future that is of greater concern. or the concern, as far as I'm concerned. I wouldn't change it. And there's a motion and a second, and
Okay.
that's all I have to say about it.
Okay. Anyone else? Clerk, please call the roll.
Meyer,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Voss,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
Abernathy.
Yes.
All right, the next is a motion to pass an ordinance granting a variation to section 20.52.050 of the Mundelein Municipal Code to allow eaves to encroach further into the setback for coves of Mundelein with respect to the property at 728 Diamond Lake Road, Mundelein, Illinois.
Motion by Meyer. Second by Sullivan. Discussion. Clerk, please call the roll.
Meyer,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Abernathy,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
Voss.
No.
Motion carries.
Next is a motion to pass an ordinance granting a parking variation to section 20.56.140 of the Mundelein Municipal Code for coves of Mundelein with respect to the property at 728 Diamond Lake Road, Mundelein, Illinois.
Motion by Meyer. Second by Sullivan. Discussion. Clerk, please call the roll.
Meyer,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
Abernathy,
Yes.
Voss.
No.
Motion carries.
The next is a motion to pass an ordinance granting an interior parking lot landscaping variation to section 20.60.080A and 20.60.100 of the Mundelein Municipal Code for coves of Mundelein with respect to the property at 728 Diamond Lake Road, Mundelein, Illinois.
Motion by Meyer.
I'll second that.
Second by Sullivan. Discussion. Clerk, please call the roll.
Meyer,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Abernathy,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
Voss.
Motion carries.
All right, the next motion is a motion to pass an ordinance approving plats of vacation and plats of covenants for coves of Mundelein with respect to property at 728 Diamond Lake Road, Mundelein, Illinois.
Motion by Meyer.
Second.
Second by Kim. Discussion.
Yeah, the plats of this is vacating the other,
Yes.
The old.
the old.
Yep.
And accepting Plan 1 or 2 at the roll of a dice.
The developer has an obligation to pursue scenario 1 with due diligence, and failing that, scenario 2 would go into effect.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Meyer,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
Voss,
Yeah, no.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Abernathy.
No.
I'll vote yes. That carries then, right? Motion carries.
All right, and the last motion is a motion to authorize staff to issue a certificate of compliance for building materials, design, and landscaping for the coves of Mundelein, 728 Diamond Lake Road.
Motion by Meyer.
Second.
Second by Kim. Discussion. Clerk, please call the roll.
Meyer,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Voss,
Yes.
Abernathy.
Yes.
Motion carries. That was the final one, correct?
Yes.
All right.
That concludes other reports.
All right. I'll just make a comment to the Kazonases. You guys have developed other properties. I just want to make a statement. You guys have set a standard that we welcome at Mundelein, and we wish you luck on this project as well. And good luck with it, okay? Thank you very much. Trustee Sullivan has some word, too.
Mr. Mayor, and I would like to reiterate that, but I also like to make a statement in regard to an impression that the listener might have, and that Mr. Kazonas and I are big buddies. I've met Mr. Kazonas one or two occasions, and I'm sure he doesn't remember that. My thoughts in regard to this project, related to those that have gone before, are simply the quality that his company puts on the ground, and comments from staff in regard to their ability to work with his people. And that's why I like this project, for the most part. I realize we've granted a lot of variances, but under certain circumstances, and those circumstances are here, the rules are made to be broken. We have a beautiful building. We have a much better situation than what was originally proposed, and I have no regrets in regard to allowing company to put this thing in the ground for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Let's see. Let's moving on. All right. Omnibus items. If any trustee wishes to pull any item A through O, speak now, please. Any item?
So please. Oh, yes.
I'm guessing.
Does anybody want to guess which one? M.
M. M is pulled. We couldn't slip that by. All right.
You almost got that. It's late. It's getting late.
It's getting late. Anyone else? Okay. Do I have a motion then to pass all of the other ones except for item M?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Voss.
Second.
Second by Kim. Any discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Voss.
Yes.
Kim.
Yes.
Meyer.
Yes.
Abernathy. Yes. Sullivan.
Yes.
Motion carries. Trustee Sullivan, item M.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion M is an ordinance in which the Village of Mundelein is going to approve prevailing wage of laborers, workmen, and mechanics employed in public works. I know it's late. Some of our newer trustees don't understand my objection to this. The prevailing wage law was instituted during the Depression in 1933. It was meant at that time to put a floor under wages. That is, so that people didn't have to work for a nickel an hour or become slaves in a situation that was an economic disaster. But we still have the law. And I think you've all read the wage scales that are here. We now don't have a floor under wages. We're attempting to place a ceiling on them. And the ceiling gets getting higher and higher. Lots and lots of states have done away with prevailing wage laws and let competition, the good old capitalistic approach to getting things done, take over. It'll be a long time before Illinois gets rid of its prevailing wage law. But it'll happen a lot sooner if we stop approving it, and I will vote no.
Any other discussion? No. So I need a motion. Well, let's go with I need a motion now, right? We don't have a motion yet. Okay.
Look at me.
Motion by Meyer. Is there no seconds?
Really? Do you understand what's the wrong?
I was wondering if it's something that we legally have to pass and we have no choice.
But if you want to vote no, that's certainly your prerogative.
Can you tell us the
Maybe a shot heard
consequences
around the
of
world. I agree
voting
with
no
you.
on this? You cannot. You
I
can't
agree with
tell
our
us.
counselor that this would be a significant failure to pass this. On the other hand, got to start somewhere. And of course, this is the wrong state to start it in, but nevertheless, not voting for it. I've always been saved by my colleagues, however.
Can we get a little more description of what this is?
It's a state mandated thing.
That these are the wages we have to pay someone?
They're the wages that the contractors who do public works projects that you award contracts to have to agree to pay their workers.
And the most recent debate is over landscape workers and what constitutes landscaping and what doesn't. And so they're splitting hairs on that, and it's something that we have to advise. I think it's in all of our contracts that we have. It's on our purchase orders. And it's a big deal.
Staff, some of our engineering or building, what their estimate is, what it costs us, rents the village hall, how much percentage increase will it cost us? How do we comply with the prevailing wage law?
I can give you maybe a lesser example of a recent landscape project that we were able to get by with a not prevailing wage due to the federal funding that it was constructed under. Originally, prevailing wage would have cost us $36,000 to complete the work. Without prevailing wage, the total cost of work was only $14,000.
And Don, it's one of the things that I'm on the legislative committee of the Lake County Municipal League, and it's one of the things that many other villages are also up in arms about and are prevailing on the Lake County Municipal League to go down and lobby and support for changing those rules. And so there is other activity going on attempting to do that, but in the meantime, it's still a mandate. And until those laws are changed, you're kind of stuck with it. But there is activity going on, working to try to correct those situations.
But my second question, if it's a mandate, then why do we vote on it?
We're required to pass prevailing wage ordinance every year.
Every June, we're required to adopt the ordinance, and we're required to send it to the state and to record it, and that's the law.
Meant to be broken.
And there are municipalities that have banded together with Lake County Municipal League and other organizations to try and change that. But in the interim, it needs to be fixed.
Well, I can tell you, no fear whatsoever, that the leadership in the General Assembly in this state is owned by organized labor.
Right.
Absolutely owned.
Quick
Don't
question.
hold your breath.
Matt, do you have something?
This is free because you didn't ask me to come out here.
Mr. Norton.
Some of you know I'm the general counsel for the Lake County Forest Preserve, and we've been involved in this effort with many, many units of local government, councils of government, landscape contractors, arborists, and organized labor to try to come up with a consensus interpretation of the act as it applies to landscaping and restoration projects. And the example that Adam provided is, we have, the Forest Preserve has had those contracts over and over again where some contractors think they're prevailing wage and bid $300,000, and some think they're not, and they bid $140,000. And then if you have a federal Davis-Bacon Act, which is the federal prevailing wage act, they have a landscaper classification, which is about half of the rate of a laborer under the state prevailing wage scenario. The state doesn't recognize a landscaper classification. So anyway, there has been now a letter issued by the Illinois Department of Labor on their enforcement issue on landscape contracts. And it's not perfect, but it's a lot better than it was. And I'd be glad to send that to Mr. Lebedo to share with the board. But it does make clear that some routine landscaping activities like mowing, which some people were paying prevailing wage for, are not covered by the prevailing wage. Wage Act, and simple acts like removing non-native species and replacing them with native is not subject to the act. So trees is still a big issue and undetermined.
No motion has been made and seconded.
No, there's no second.
There's been no second yet. I would just throw this out there. You know, you have to pick and choose your battles, and I respect Trustee Sullivan greatly for his consistent stand in this, and EPA I think is another mandate that is you speak up about consistently, and I respect that. We have other plates to spin, battles to fight, and if we go down this road, there will be it'll absorb certainly some staff time and our time as well in terms of the consequences of that.
So everybody can stop squirming.
Okay, good.
However, I do think that I agree with Trustee Sullivan in that we need to start really thinking about how we're going to apply pressure to get this changed, because I understand, labor and the control that it has in this state, but we don't answer to them. We answer to the residents who elect us, who it costs them so much more money because of this. We really need to think about what we can do in the next year so we're not in this position again, and we can support Trustee Sullivan's stand.
And again, I would ask that the Village of Mundelein strongly support the Lake County Municipal League efforts, because as part of the legislative committee, that's one of our top issues that we go down to Springfield and lobby on, and have meetings with our elected representatives on these types of issues, so that I would ask if that is the general feeling, that we stand behind that and support the Lake County Municipal League efforts and others who are trying to combat that. And that's one of the active things that we're working on.
Well, we do have other meetings coming up.
Okay. We have a second from Trustee Voss. Any further discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Meyer?
Yes.
Voss?
Yes.
Abernathy?
No.
Sullivan?
No.
Kim? No.
Okay, now we're in trouble. Can we call it again? Can't we immediately ask for, isn't there a Robert's Rule of Order that we can immediately ask for a reconsider and it can be on the agenda for next?
Yes.
I would like to make that motion then.
Make a motion for
For a reconsideration at the next meeting.
Oh, okay.
Okay? It'll just be
I could
reconsidered
vote to
because
make a
Trustee
tie,
Semple
right?
is going to be there. But a tie isn't going to break it.
Still won't pass. It may help.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll vote yes. Make a tie. And with that said, there's been a motion by Trustee Voss for reconsideration of this at the next board meeting.
And can I just add, if we don't pass this, there are ramifications for us that aren't going to be pleasant. It's a nice high horse to take, but in the meantime, you're putting us in a precarious situation.
Do we need
Generally, the way this goes is that all of us have certain stands that we take, and the rest of us appreciate those stands and then continue on with the business of the village. I don't grant variations pretty much, but you all do tonight. Well, we all know that Trustee Sullivan doesn't ever support this, but we know that we have to.
And
so
I
just
appreciate
ask for the reconsidering, so we can try it again for next time.
So do we need to have a motion and vote on that reconsideration? Okay,
I'm
so
making that motion.
I have a motion from Trustee Voss to reconsider this at the next board meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Meyer. Any
Yes.
discussion?
Yes.
So,
And let the word go out. Every municipality in the state of Illinois, Mundelein is tired of this baloney. And there's lots of other municipalities that feel the same way that we do. And in fact, I think every last one of them. And certainly, it wouldn't take every last municipality in the state of Illinois to turn back prevailing wage approval. It would only take 30 or 40% of them, maybe not even that.
Well,
And
so
it would it would get turned back.
a 2-week where they think we're turning it down would send a good little message without actually
That's right.
hurting us.
It's called a revolution. And it's overdue, long overdue.
And I agree with Trustee Sullivan. However, there are activities in place to do that very same thing without putting us in jeopardy.
Maybe, perhaps.
Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Boss?
Yes.
Meyer?
Yes.
Abernethy?
No.
Sullivan?
No.
Kim?
No.
Okay, well.
I'll vote yes.
All right, this will come back for reconsideration regardless.
Sure it will.
Why will it?
Well, because the law requires. I mean, you have the prerogative to vote the way you want to, but it'll keep coming back.
That's right. And it will come back in lots of other municipalities.
Can I just say a line for myself in case everyone's wondering? Because I didn't make any monologues earlier.
All right, you did
but,
fine. Don't worry.
Oh, well, I myself am a firm believer in free market, so that's why I voted the way I did.
Okay. Okay, moving on. We have a report from village staff. First, village administrator.
I have just one item on the agenda and a couple items to inform the board on. First one is really a resolution. I don't know how much you've been following this, but a lot of municipalities have been passing similar resolutions in the event that, last I checked, this was on the governor's desk. I don't know if he signed it, he hasn't signed it. But there is some thought out there that if we pass this resolution and direct our Planning and Zoning Commission to consider where we would put facilities such as cannabis cultivation centers and cannabis distribution facilities, which are not obviously permitted uses in our zoning ordinance, that this resolution would direct the Plan Commission to consider what zoning district this would be placed in as a special use. And that would essentially put the public on notice that this is something that the board has already considered. So we fully expect the governor to sign this legislation, but stranger things have happened. And this puts into motion a process that will give the direction to the Plan Commission to review this new legislation and come up with appropriate zoning districts and regulations.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second that motion.
Who made the motion? Motion by Kim, second by Voss. Discussion?
Could we amend this document so it says medicinal in front of the word cannabis? Just so, I mean, because in the document it only says in parentheses known as Medicinal Marijuana Act one time, and the rest of it sounds like.
This is just a summary.
Okay. I didn't want people to be misinformed and think it was just flat out.
A cannabis distribution center.
The KFC.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyone else?
I think the medicinal's a good call.
But it is on the, she's looking at the staff report summary, and that's not the verbiage that we're talking about. On the ordinance itself, it says medical in front of cannabis.
It wouldn't hurt to have it in the motion. It's not in the motion.
Like where?
Okay. Regarding, so in the motion regarding the classification of medical cannabis. Okay.
The resolution speaks for itself.
Right.
The resolution is clear. It's medical.
Right.
The agenda doesn't control. It's the resolution.
Because our residents aren't necessarily always reading the attachments, and to them, the agenda is their, what they have to go on.
Yeah, they're thinking they got a new career.
Do we need to have a motion to amend this motion, or can we just say that we'll just? Okay, very good. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Kim? Yes. Voss?
Yes.
Meyer?
Yes.
Abernathy?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Motion carries. Anything else?
I have one other item, and this is just a report on the electric aggregation that, as you recall, last summer, the board voted to, actually it was a referendum that went forward for the aggregation. And so we got our first summary of how are we doing, and that goes something like this. So for the first 8 months, the typical homeowner has saved approximately $181 on their electric bill. If you recall, the rates for Commonwealth Edison was somewhere around 8.3 cents per kilowatt hour, and we were able to get 5.5 cents per kilowatt hour. So that's a significant savings, and for the entire community as an aggregate, the community has saved approximately $1.593 million overall in that same period. We were fortunate that we elected at that point to go to a 2-year, lock in this rate for 2 years. And so although we've seen Commonwealth Edison rates come down, we won't realize as big a savings going forward, but we still have a low rate. And then lastly, there's been about a 5 or 10% loss in customers. As you know, it's still okay for telephone solicitation to try and get them to move to another supplier. And this is typical that we've seen somewhere between 5 and 10% migration away from our supplier to somebody new through being solicited by some other companies. So I thought that was good news for the resident. Thought I'd inform the board. That's my only report, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Lebedo. Mr. Marino.
I have no report, and there's no.
Okay. Village clerk.
Nothing.
No report. No executive session. Any other business? Do I have a motion to adjourn? What?
Motion to adjourn.
Oh, motion to adjourn by Kim, second by Meyer. No discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you very much. Meeting is adjourned.
Well, Mr. Sullivan, it's your night. Congratulations.